Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. Here, we bring you fun, thrilling, and immersive novels in audio form. With a growing library of audiobooks, there's something here for every listener. Do you like Naruto fan fiction? We have it all. From powerful ninja battles to amazing sage arts and wood-style moves, or even Tsunoda's boobs, you can enjoy epic adventures anytime. Love One Piece stories? Soar through the skies with Moonwalk, sense the world with observation Haki, clash with enemies using armament Haki, spending the night with Nami and Robin and rise to fame by unleashing your conqueror's Haki. Become a true pirate of the seas. Your adventure starts here. Want even more? You can go full Bankai. Let's go. We offer a wide range of stories, including Fairy Tales, Hunter x Hunter, High School DxD, Marvel and DC, Harry Potter, and many more. So, what are you waiting for? Jump into endless adventures today. We're waiting for you at Novel Love Hearing. Huff. Hot breath hissed from his nostrils. The Orc Demon Lord's eyes were a bloody red. It was incredibly difficult for him to maintain any semblance of reason while grappling with his sudden surge of power. He raised his hand. A mass of blackish-green magic energy coalesced above it. So he's past the point of conversation? Rao sighed softly. Personally, he had no real grudge against this demon lord who pushed himself to such extremes for the sake of his race. But if there was no point in talking, he wouldn't waste words. Whoosh! Before the Orc Demon Lord could even unleash his attack, a red dragon's tail ripped straight through his heart. Chapter 235, Burning Soul. Tears, 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 tears. Blood gushed from the stiff body of the Orc Demon Lord. Yet in the next moment, his blood began flowing back, and his wounds began to heal rapidly. This was the immortal level of regenerative power granted by his abilities. But since Rao intended to finish him off, he certainly wouldn't let him recover. Boom. Flames ignited from his dragon tail at the demon lord's chest. Compared to his massive body, however, that small blaze seemed little more than a tiny spark. Ugh! At first, the Orc Demon Lord didn't pay it any mind. A surge of living energy behind him burst forth, trying to envelop Rao. He intended to use corrode and consume to devour Rao, just as he had devoured Gelmute. Unfortunately, the gap in their abilities was insurmountable. The skill barely activated before collapsing in the next instant. What? The problem wasn't the skill or the magic energy. It was the Orc Demon Lord himself. Suddenly losing balance, his giant body dropped to its knees. Gah! The dragon tail withdrew from his heart, flicked behind Rao, and disappeared. Ah! The Orc Demon Lord let out a soul-rending howl, for that tiny spark in his heart had, in the blink of an eye, spread to engulf his entire body. All done. Rao watched calmly as the Orc Demon Lord writhed in agony. His body rapidly turned to ash under the flame. Though there were faint signs of healing, they were no match for the intensity of the true crimson fire. And his real torment wasn't physical. It was the burning of his soul. Initially, Rao expected it to be over just like that. But there was still a slight twist. Already riddled with incoherent thoughts, as his soul was partially destroyed, the Demon Lord slipped deeper into madness. I don't want power. Instinctively, he unleashed all of his remaining strength. The Scarlet Corrode and Consume Aura once again spread over the entire Orc army. But this time, it wasn't sharing his power with them. Huh? Chief. In an instant, the Orc warriors realized something was very wrong. Their bodies began to shrivel, their magic power drained away. Flesh and magic flowed en masse toward the Orc Demon Lord. He was consuming his own troops. Ah! Chief. Over 200,000 orcs screamed in agony. Oh? Rao didn't blink as he watched this happen. Frieren, what's happening now? Akam, I have a suspicion. Sakobujujima, me too. Mabel, what are you guys talking about? I have no clue. Yukino shita Yukino, because you're an idiot. Mabel, huh? Rao, hey, he's devouring his own tribe. Having lost all reason, only the base instinct to survive remained in the Orc Demon Lord's body and soul. And what better nourishment than the 200,000 troops around him? Stella, how disgusting. She felt nauseated as she watched each orc shrivel until their skin clung to their bones, armor clattering to the ground. Their flesh and magic were sucked away into the Demon Lord. Within mere seconds, not a single one of the 200,000 orcs was left alive, even their cries had been abruptly cut short. Those in the chat group were only watching via live stream. But Futaba and Rio, seeing it all directly from above, had far more intense reactions. Ugh! Both turned deathly pale, retching. Even if they were monsters, from a human perspective, these creatures stood upright and spoke, indicating intelligence. And even if they hadn't been intelligent, watching that many living creatures die in such a brutal way was horrifying. That was over 200,000 sentient lives snuffed out in seconds. Futaba and Rio's minds reeled, on the verge of shock. Velzard glanced at them and shook her head inwardly. She thought, these two that Raoul brought have rather weak nerves. Uoa. In the flames, the orc demon lord's aura grew drastically stronger, having devoured his entire army. Monster, orc demon lord Geld, level 48, abilities, starved, corrode and consume. Sure enough, he had grown much more powerful, far beyond his previous state. He was pushing himself up, his scorched body showing signs of mending even in the flames. Yet Raoul's expression remained composed as the demon lord's massive frame loomed higher. Ruar. The orc demon lord roared at Raoul, but the spit and shockwave were dispelled by an invisible force. Time's about up, Raoul remarked calmly. In the next moment, the roar cut off abruptly. Boom. Just as the orc demon lord rose, his body collapsed heavily, unable to stand again, completely silent. TCH, you can devour all you like. But you can't repair your soul. With a wave of his hand, the intense flames on the demon lord's body vanished. Huh? What happened to him? At that moment, Velu Velzard and the others descended, and Tarini voiced the question everyone in the chat group was wondering. From their viewpoint, after devouring his entire army, the orc demon lord's power had looked terrifying. How did he suddenly just collapse? He's dead, Velzard said with a blink. His soul has been destroyed, that's just an empty shell. The flames. Velgrin said, looking at Raoul in awe. Your flames burned away his soul? She had never heard of fire that could incinerate a soul, let alone the soul of a proper demon lord type. There's nothing to be surprised about, Raoul replied. Maybe you can do that someday, too. He was implying that with the right evolution of her blessing, Velgrin could also master the true crimson flame. MNNG, I get it. Velgrin blushed in delight, feeling reassured that Raoul wouldn't forget about her. Slightly jealous, Velzard stepped forward and wrapped her arm around Raoul's neck, biting his ear. What about me? Raoul chuckled. I'm not neglecting you, either, but your power is already incredibly strong. She couldn't deny it. Eternal Freeze was already edging beyond this world's top-tier abilities. That's why, Raoul continued. I plan to fulfill our promise. Today. He was referring to the deal to take on that certain demon lord. Guy the Red Primordial. Head on. Chapter 236, Shun and Shuna. Princess, hang in there. We have to survive. In the depths of the forest, a purple-haired woman with a single horn protruding from her head was shouting anxiously. On her back, she carried a severely injured, pink-haired girl. The pink-haired girl responded weakly, her face pale and bloodless. They were not human, each had a horn on her head, marking them as members of the Ana race living in the great forest of Jura. Not long ago, the Ana tribe had met with disaster. The invasion of the orc army. Facing the enormous horde of orcs, the Ana were powerless to resist. In order to preserve what was left of their people, they scattered and fled. This woman had escaped eastward with the princess. During their escape, the princess received a life-threatening injury. What should I do? The purple-haired woman was frantic. If this went on, the princess would die. Gritting her teeth, she decided to head back to their village. Even if it was risky. All she could do was hope the orc army had already left. Princess, hold on. I'm taking you back to the village. She used all her strength to return to the village, only to find nothing but ruins. There was no sign of anyone. The prince and their people had vanished. Why did this happen? Kneeling on the ground, the woman bit her lip, as though she had lost all hope. Until... Raoul, I've found two interesting little ones over here. A cool voice cut through the wind against her face. Startled, the purple-haired Ana woman spun around. Who's there? She saw an elegantly dressed woman, and not far off, more people approaching under Raoul's lead. Having just dealt with the orc demon lord in this area, Velzard had discovered these two Ana. The purple-haired Ana kept her guard up, protecting the fading aura of the pink-haired princess at her back. Who are you people? She asked warily. Traini stepped forward. I'm Traini, caretaker of the Great Forest. Caretaker of the Great Forest. The purple-haired Ana paused. She seemed to recall the princess once mentioning the tree sprites of the Great Forest of Jura. Traini glanced at the pink-haired Ana princess, whose breathing was weak, and frowned. That girl behind you. She's the Ana princess, right? She remembered that the Ana had territory in this region, and from the look of the ruined settlement now occupied by the orc army, Traini had a pretty good guess what had happened. The purple-haired woman bowed her head with a heavy heart. Yes, she is. Please. Save her, Your Highness the forest caretaker. Traini shook her head sadly. I'm sorry, but in her current state, there's nothing I can do. She lacked the power to pull someone back from the brink of death. Princess. Despair filled the Ana's eyes as she lowered her head, fingers clenched so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. It was the first time she had felt so powerless. Rao, who had not spoken this whole time, studied the two Ana, feeling an odd sense of familiarity. Monster, Great Ana, level 13, ability, Ana bloodline. Monster, Great Ana, level 14, ability, Ana bloodline. From his true sight, he saw that neither of them had a name, but Rao still had his suspicions. They were likely the ones known as Shin and Shuna, who had been named by Rimuru in the original story. Velgrund noticed he was staring at them and asked curiously, Rao, what do you have in mind for them? Velzard smiled broadly. You've got the power to heal her, right? If you lend a hand, I'll bet they'll be grateful enough to weep tears of joy. Rao gave a slight smirk. Don't make it sound like I'm preying on the weak. Though, he did intend to take the two in. The Shin look-alike overheard their exchange. As if clutching at a lifeline, she immediately knelt and bowed her head to Rao. Mr. Human. Please save our princess. I'll devote my entire life to serving you if you do. Watching this, Draini felt a strong sense of déjà vu. It was exactly how she had begged for help not long ago. Rao stepped forward, raising his hand. A golden light enveloped the pink-haired girl. A glimmer of hope lit up in the purple-haired Ana's eyes, but Rao informed her. I'm only stabilizing her condition for now. Looking down at the kneeling Shin, he asked calmly. What happened to you two? Shin took a moment to regain her composure before respectfully describing the Ana clan's tragedy at the hands of the Orc army. Her voice was heavy with pain and anger. Sigh. What happened to the Ana is happening all over the forest, Draini said sadly. The Ana had been nearly annihilated, a cruel and brutal tragedy. But it was not an isolated incident. Countless other small races and tribes in the forest might be suffering the same fate. Sir, I beg you. Please save the princess. Shin pleaded again, prostrating herself. She had sensed how easily Rao had stabilized the princess's condition, and it gave her genuine hope. I can save her. Rao, but from today onward, both of you will belong to me. You'll serve me for the rest of your lives. Arms folded over his chest, he continued. Call it what you will. Exploiting the weak or something else. But I prefer to call it a trade. This. Shin hesitated. She didn't care what happened to herself. But the princess. Seeing the princess still at death's door. Shin steeled herself. Biting her lip, she bowed her head. I accept, my lord. As for the princess. Once she's awake, I'll do my best to explain and persuade her. It didn't matter if they ended up as someone else's vassals, the princess's life was all that mattered now. If the princess ultimately refused after waking, Shin would willingly offer her own life in repentance. Good, Rao said with a small nod. The golden light at his fingertip shone brighter, and the pink-haired girl's injury-riddled body visibly changed. Before their eyes, her wounds began to close at remarkable speed. Her bloodless complexion regained color, and her breathing and heartbeat grew steadily stronger. Chapter 237, Level 100. Before long, Shuna opened her eyes. What happened to me? She sat up, her hand pressed to her dizzy head. Princess. Seeing that she was awake, Shin crawled toward her excitedly. Her memories gradually returned. Shuna recalled what had happened before she lost consciousness. This is our village. Gazing around, the once familiar surroundings were now in ruins, and it pained Shuna to see it. The Ana clan was no more. She had no idea whether her brother or the others were alive or dead. Traini, find them somewhere to rest. I need to step away for a bit, Rao spoke up at this point. Turning to Shin, he said. Explain everything to her yourself. When I come back, I want your answer. With those words, he vanished from where he stood, along with Velzard and Velgrund. Shuna only remembered the moments before she lost consciousness. She had no clue what had happened afterward. Besides the now departed Rao and the other two, she didn't recognize any of them. Princess, a long story. Shin bit down on her lip, at a loss for how to explain everything. Was she supposed to say she'd sold off the princess while she was unconscious? Everyone, Draini interjected. This isn't the best place to talk. Please allow me to take you all to the territory of the tree sprites. Shizu had no objections. Futaba and Rio, still reeling from the flood of recent events, followed in silence. Elsewhere. This castle looks pretty good, Rao remarked as he and the other two stood at the gates of a massive fortress. He looked over at Velzard. So, that guy's here? Velzard nodded. Yes, this place belongs to the primordial red guy Crimson. Rao, are you sure it's okay to just barge in and challenge him like this? Velgrund asked worriedly. Even though she sensed that Rao's power had grown again after defeating the Orc Demon Lord, he still hadn't reached disaster level. That was her impression, based on what she knew. Name, Rao, level 56 He'd gained another level after killing the Orc Demon Lord, but 56 was still a fair distance from Velzard and Velgrand in terms of perception. Guy Crimson, the Primordial Red, was definitely stronger than Velgrand. Likely at level 64 or beyond. Even so, Raoul simply smirked, completely at ease. Don't forget, I hold the position of Demon Lord. Hearing that, both Velzard and Velgrand's eyes lit up. So you really can become a Demon Lord? Before Raoul could answer. Whoosh! A gale roared up, and a vortex of black-red wind suddenly formed in front of them. 2 dragonoids and a human with calamity-level power. What an odd group. And who allowed you to set foot here? Boom. His tone was equal parts casual arrogance and regal authority, followed by an explosive gust of energy surging toward the trio. Guy, oh mighty Primordial Red. So you'd pull small tricks like this to greet your guests? Velzard murmured, swinging her pale arm in a single motion. An icy wind buffeted aside the opposing force. As she spoke, a lone figure appeared, a red-haired man wearing an open coat over his bare, muscular upper body, with a black hairband around his head. He eyed Raoul and the others with amused curiosity. Uninvited visitors don't qualify as guests, he said. State your business, or I'll see to it that this world loses 2 dragonoids. His voice was domineering and haughty. Fitting for the power he possessed. This, of course, was precisely what got under Velgrand's skin. Humphrey. Arrogant blowhard. Someday someone's going to teach you a lesson, she snapped. Not someday. Today someone will teach him a lesson. Raoul stepped forward with a smile. Guy's eyes widened for a moment as Raoul declared. Guy Crimson. Dark Emperor. Oldest of the Demon Lords. Are you ready to get pummeled? TCH. Ha 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 ha. Guy burst into laughter as though hearing a ridiculous joke. Raoul didn't bother interrupting him. After a few moments, Guy's laughter stopped. His gaze cooled. You. A mere calamity level. Planning to beat me? He couldn't fathom where Raoul got such confidence. Were the 2 dragonoids behind him giving him courage? Dragonoids were indeed strong, but Guy believed himself capable of beating them. Indeed, Guy's power was far above Velzard's. Name, Guy Crimson, level, 70, ability, Pride King. And that was not a level Raoul could touch at present. But. Raoul grinned wickedly. A mere calamity level, you say? That was just a moment ago. Now tell me how you see me. Huh? Now? Guy froze. All of a sudden, he seemed to sense something. He stared at Raoul, startled. At the same time, Velzard and Velgrand were both taken aback by the transformation radiating from Raoul. Boom. A world-shaking aura erupted around him. It felt as though the very world tilted toward him. A demon lord. Guy muttered, bewildered. That human, who was only at calamity level, suddenly became a demon lord. And his magic energy exceeds even that of the Star King Dragon, whom I've never beaten. The limits of a demon lord. The power of that position. Ha, I like this. Raoul clenched his right fist. A tremendous power coursed through him, making every cell in his body quiver with excitement. Just now, he had activated the power of Demon Lord. And in this world, that allowed him to ascend fully to Demon Lord rank, achieving the apex of that position. Name, Raoul, level, 100, abilities, Frozen, Self, True Sight, Transformation, Blessing, Demon Lord, Spirit King, Cognitive Disappearance, Sword Energy Mastery, True Crimson Dragon God, Time and Quality Interference, Inherent Device, Kill of All, Possessions, God Freezing Sword, Demon's Extract, Grimoire, Ilias's Fragment, Grimoire, Astor's Manuscript Description, the power to destroy or create a universe embodies your might. Level 100. That was the maximum for a Demon Lord in this world. He had jumped from 56 to 100, a difference so vast that even Raoul himself could hardly put it into words. All that needed to be said was reflected in the description. He now had the power to either destroy or create an entire universe. Chapter 238, Primordial Green and Primordial Blue. Primordial Red, my wives want to beat you up, so of course I'll let them have their fun. With Raoul's casual statement, Guy felt an immediate sense of danger. He had no idea how Raoul had suddenly become more powerful than the Star King Dragon, but if he needed to escape, he would. Too bad. All at once, Guy's body went limp, collapsing to the ground. His magicules, his strength all gone. Velzard, Velgrand. Didn't you say you wanted a crack at him? Ah, I've been itching to get my hands on him, Velzard said with a cold smile. She still bore a grudge about how, despite his defeat, the Star King Dragon had once taken pity on him. Velgrand was more direct. Crack. Crack. She clenched her fists so hard the joints popped, ready to charge in at any moment. Raoul watched them, all too eager for a fight, and smiled faintly. He is powerless now. Do as you like. Powerless? Oh ho? A gleam flashed in both their eyes. Guy looked on in confusion, realizing Velzard and Velgrand were approaching him with ill intent. It was his first time feeling truly powerless, and with it came a fear he had never known. Not even when facing the Star King Dragon. Gulp. He swallowed. Don't come any closer. Arg. Amid screams, the sounds of fists and feet striking flesh echoed back and forth. Meanwhile, Rao turned his focus inward, exploring the power that came with his Demon Lord status. Magicules. They were both the most fundamental and the most potent force in this world. Now, Rao could effectively command the Magicules of the entire universe. Creating a world out of Magicules would be trivial for him. Likewise, with this immense reservoir of Magicules, he could resurrect life just as easily. He could watch over the birth and death of the whole cosmos. If he wished, he could even bring the Star King Dragon of Creation back to life. But that was Velzard and Velgrand's older brother, and he had no particular desire to resurrect him. Among dragonkind, such familial bonds did not run like those of humans. For them, the Star King Dragon was simply an exceptionally powerful being. Nothing more. He did, however, have interest in resurrecting two individuals, both of whom were connected to Guy, who was currently being pummeled nearby. With a single thought, two translucent figures, one green, one blue, appeared before him, two women. One had long green hair and emerald green eyes, the other had short blue hair and sapphire blue eyes. Their striking features echoed those of Guy Crimson with his red hair and eyes. Indeed, their identities were of a similar nature to his. Where are we? The green-haired woman opened her eyes in confusion. The blue-haired woman likewise opened her eyes, her calm blue gaze locking onto Rao. They were, like Guy, primordial demons. The original devils. Primordials are the very first demons to arise from the darkness. There are 7 of them in total, each represented by a color: red, black, white, purple, yellow, blue, and green. All demons born afterward are the descendants or followers of these 7. These two were primordial green and primordial blue. In another timeline, they would have been resurrected by Guy Crimson as his servants. But in this world, events had diverged so drastically they never came back to life. You two should realize you're both dead, right? Rao said to them. Primordial green raised an eyebrow. I died. Killed by red when I challenged him. And blue died along with me. Primordial blue silently nodded. In ancient times, they had both emerged from the great spirit of darkness. Together, they challenged primordial red. Guy defeated them, crushing their cores and annihilating them both. Sensing something, primordial blue turned her head, spotting Guy Crimson being beaten up by 2 opponents at once. She went wide-eyed. Green, look over there. Huh? Primordial green looked in the indicated direction. Time seemed to freeze. What? That apostrophe S. Red? She was dumbfounded. Seeing the once all-powerful primordial red. Who had killed them? Getting stomped by others was so bizarre, she wondered if she was dreaming. Or maybe. He just looks like red, right? Green tried to rationalize. But it was more than that. She couldn't sense any magicules in him. He seemed like an ordinary human at best. He is primordial red. Guy Crimson, Rao stated firmly, bringing them back from their shock. But if that's red, why doesn't he have any power? Primordial green still found it hard to believe. Back then, even joining forces with blue hadn't been enough to defeat him. Because I stripped him of it. My wife didn't like him, so she wanted to beat him up a bit. His casual explanation left both primordial green and primordial blue momentarily speechless. Just who had the power to remove all of primordial red's strength simply because his wife wanted to beat him up? Was he the Star King Dragon? They both entertained the thought simultaneously. And concluded it might be true, given that the ones pummeling Guy were a pair of dragonkind even stronger than they were. Only the Star King Dragon could be worthy of marriage to them, right? Are you the Star King Dragon? Primordial Green asked doubtfully. No. My name is Rao, he said, shaking his head. Then he got down to business. He hadn't brought them back from the underworld just to make small talk. It doesn't matter who I am, you only need to know that I can resurrect you. Resurrection. Primordial Green and Primordial Blue exchanged glances. Neither wanted to remain dead, so they did desire resurrection. But neither showed outright excitement. Both understood something crucial: no one does such a thing for free. What's the price? Primordial Blue asked, cutting straight to the heart of it. The price is simple: eternal service. Loyalty to me. Rao wasn't hiding anything. He had specifically recalled them because he admired both their power and their beauty. The two fell silent. Rao didn't rush them, he waited patiently for their reply, while the background resounded with Guy's continuing shrieks of pain. After a while, they exchanged one more glance. Primordial Green spoke. We have a condition of our own. A condition? Let's hear it. We want to beat up Primordial Red, too. They said in unison. Bruised, swollen, barely conscious, Guy still seemed to recognize those voices. His entire body started trembling involuntarily, an ominous premonition telling him he was in for even more suffering. Like he wasn't already? That hurts. Chapter 239, Yukino, hurry up. I need to pee. Stella, did I hear that right? Didn't Rao just mention resurrection? I heard it too. Sakobujujima, those two people without physical forms. Are they the souls of the dead? Yamagawa, so that's what a human soul looks like. I always thought it was some scary, grimacing ghost. Taru, not every world is like that. In yours, maybe the spirits of the dead are ghouls or ghosts. Yamagawa, thanks. That's another thing to scare me with. Suai, stop saying weird stuff. There's no such thing as ghosts. In her bed, Suai shrank under the covers, eyeing the darkness of the room warily. Surely there aren't any ghosts, not right? In the end, she lit a lamp to brighten the room, which made the spooky vibe dissipate somewhat. Frieren, resurrection. Magic that brings the dead back to life. Does something like that really exist? Yukino Shita Yukino, not sure? But Rao gave physical forms to those two shadowy figures. Out in the hallway by the bathroom, Mabel, legs pressed together, was on the verge of tears. Ugh, Yukino, are you done yet? I can't hold it any longer. Inside, Yukino Shita, who had long since forgotten about the passage of time, was sitting on the toilet, glued to the live stream. On the screen, countless motes of light flowed toward the two ephemeral figures, whose bodies gradually gained substance. Resurrection of the dead. Even if only a soul remained, in this world of infinite magicules, it could be reconstructed. Yet demons technically didn't have bodies to begin with. Their essential existence was almost purely spiritual. To maintain a presence in the physical world, they required a vessel. A body to inhabit. And how well it matched determined how long they could remain here. Of course, Rao took all that into account. He wasn't about to perform any sacrifices. In this world, magicules could do anything. Revive the dead? Possible. Create bodies? Also possible. Is this a body? Primordial Green and Primordial Blue were stunned. They had truly been brought back to life. And not only that, they each now possessed a perfectly compatible body that felt like their own. I'll consider these bodies my gift to you, Rao said casually. Do you like them? They hadn't expected him to go so far. Though they said nothing, there was a subtle shift in their expressions. In that case, you can't just follow me without names, Rao continued. Demons lack names as well as physical forms. Glancing at Primordial Green, he said. From now on, you'll be Misery. Then to Primordial Blue, and how about Rain for you? Both women's bodies trembled, as though something was branded into them. A sense of ascension in both soul and spirit reminded them of something. Being named. In that moment, they each arrived at the same thought. Master. Kneeling on one knee, they pledged their highest respect and loyalty to Rao. Anyone with the power to grant them bodies and names. Who had even restored them to life. Was someone truly worthy of their service? Rao was quite satisfied with their reaction. Glancing off at Guy, who was still getting pummeled, he called out. Velzard, Velgrund. Take a break. It's someone else's turn. The two paused their flurry of punches. They turned, revealing Guy's bruised, bloody face. Though he was still alive. Seeing Misery and Rain surprised them. I can't believe you brought them back, Velzard said with a smile. Looks like we have two more little sisters now. Velgrund blinked. Weren't you both killed by that jerk? Switch. She flexed her fists again, though she did look a bit worn out from the beating. MMPH. Guy's lips were so swollen he couldn't form any coherent words. All he could do was watch in horror as Misery and Rain closed in on him with dangerous looks in their eyes. TCH. Meanwhile, in the Dryad's territory, Drayini guided everyone to a comfortable treehouse. In one of the rooms, Shin was explaining everything to Shuna, including the fact that she had agreed to Rao's proposal on her own. Princess, it was my decision alone to accept that gentleman's terms. If you're unwilling, I'll go off for my life in repentance. After finishing her explanation, Shun took full responsibility for her crime. She felt certain the princess, having such high status, could never accept being in someone else's service. But Shuna did not look angry at all. Instead, she seemed calm, merely aware that she'd been saved from the brink of death. Seeing Shun filled with guilt and self-blame, Shuna said softly, I'm not blaming you. On the contrary, I believe this may be an opportunity. Opportunity? Shun looked up, confused. Shuna nodded in explanation. Our clan has been decimated. I doubt we can continue living in the great forest of Jura. The forest was far from peaceful, conflicts among different monster tribes were common. And we don't know if my brother is even alive. Darkness flickered across Shuna's face. There was a chance her brother was already dead. But she refused to give up hope on finding him or any of their surviving people. So she decided, if we can gain that gentleman's protection, maybe he'll help us search for my brother and the others as well. Princess. Shun felt even more guilty. The princess was even willing to submit to another just to save their people. With renewed resolve, Shun said solemnly, Princess, I'll swear loyalty to that gentleman with you. In another room, Futaba and Rio had finally recovered from their shock. Here, have some water. Aizawa Shizu handed them tea. Thank you. They accepted it gratefully. As Shizu turned to leave, Rio spoke up. Shizu-san, could I ask you something? Of course. Shizu was more than willing to help. She felt a friendly affinity for anyone Rao brought along. What kind of person is Rao, exactly? Futaba was also listening closely. Now that they realized how little they really knew about Rao, whether from shock or curiosity, they both wanted to hear more about him. Chapter 240, Milim Nava. Time passed. Guy had no idea how long he had been punched and kicked. All the pain on his body had faded into a silent numbness. By then, Rao and the others had already left his domain. He remembered only one thing that Rao said before departing, your power will return in half an hour. Next time you see someone from my side, keep your head down. Rao hadn't killed him. They didn't really bear any serious grudges. Except that Velzard and Velgrind found him annoying, and so did the newly resurrected Misery and Rain. This time, they had really beaten him to their heart's content. As Rain put it, it was a great release for body and soul. There were still a few minutes left before the half-hour mark. Guy, swollen beyond recognition, could barely move. All he could do was wait for his strength to return. At the same time, his mind drifted to thoughts of that man. Someone stronger than the Star King Dragon. Who could strip away all his power, his magicules included, in an instant. He never would have imagined that such an existence could be out there. Huh? How'd you end up looking like a pig? Guy felt whatever remained of his dignity shatter. Here was yet another person seeing him in this pig-headed state. A pink-haired girl with twin pigtails stood before him. She blinked her large, sparkling eyes and curiously poked Guy's swollen, flattened face. TSK. The kind of pain he once wouldn't have batted an eye at now made him wince involuntarily like an ordinary person. You've lost your power? The girl asked, confused. She saw Guy's condition at a glance. The fact that she could speak this way to the primordial red showed she, too, wasn't ordinary. Milim Nava. Like Guy, one of the oldest three demon lords. She was also the daughter of the star dragon Veldinova, the creator god, and Lucia, the sister of hero Ryudra. Born with immense power and infinite magicules, she was one of the few capable of manipulating stellar particles. One of the true peak existences of this world, an even match for Guy. Huh? All better now? Milim tilted her head. Suddenly, Guy's aura swelled. A crimson light flashed around him, and the battered, disfigured body he had was rapidly restored. By the time he stood once more in his demon lord form, the cocky and dismissive expression he once wore was gone, replaced by endless silence. Without uttering a word, he vanished from sight in a gust of wind. That was strange, Milim commented. She wasn't offended by his behavior, just curious about who could possibly have beaten him like that. Was there really someone in this world who could do such a thing? Sniff, sniff. Milim twitched her nose. She caught a familiar scent in the air. They were here? She recognized a dragon's aura immediately. Hey, guess I'll go find them and ask what happened. Confident she could track down the dragonkind who had been here, Milim went off in search of answers. Rao is back. Hearing the news, Shizu hurriedly rose to her feet and stepped outside. Futaba and Rio exchanged glances, then followed after her. At that moment, inside a spacious meeting room, Draini was formally thanking Rao. Lord Rao, the great forest of Jura has now returned to normal. Thank you for lending your strength. I wouldn't say I lent a hand per se, Rao said plainly. From now on, this entire forest is mine. Huh? Draini froze, then her expression became one of eager excitement. Thank you for granting your protection to the great forest. She couldn't be happier that Rao had claimed the forest as his own. A fighter strong enough to defeat demon lords was a boon, a blessing upon the great forest of Jura. Rao, what are you talking about? At that moment, Aizawa Shizu and the others walked in. Nothing much. I was just announcing that the great forest of Jura is now my territory. You're free to live here. Really? Shizu's eyes lit up. That would mean having a permanent home for herself. Now unburdened, She very much wanted a lasting place to stay, living alongside Velzard and the others. Behind her, the words left Shuna Enshin deeply shaken. He was going to control the entire great forest of Jura. What kind of concept was that? The thought only strengthened Shuna's resolve. Seeing everyone's reactions, Rao spoke again to Traini. Aside from that, I have a few more plans in mind, but let's go somewhere else to talk. Futaba and Rio sat in the room, not saying much. After all, Rao and the others had indeed gone somewhere else to talk. Somewhere the two of them clearly weren't invited. They were apparently soaking in a hot spring while discussing things. There was no way Rio would go there. From Aizawa Shizu, she'd learned about the chat group's trades and her relationship with Rao. Not only was her worldview thrown into chaos, but the complicated personal entanglements within the chat group left her reeling. In the ensuing silence, Rio had assumed Futaba felt the same way. But she noticed Futaba suddenly seemed to make up her mind about something, heading for the door. She watched as Futaba opened the door. Only then did Rio ask, "Where are you going?" A faint blush tinted Futaba's cheeks. "I just need some air," she mumbled, quickly shutting the door before Rio could press for more details. "Air?" Rio repeated, glancing at the large windows in the treehouse. It didn't seem that stuffy. In the steaming hot spring, Rao was enjoying a massage from Shizu. "Did you get all that down just now?" he asked Traini, whose face was bright red on the other side. "Why yes," Traini replied in a tiny voice. She didn't even know where to look. This was the first time in her life she'd felt truly flustered. "Good," Rao said, referring to everything he had told her about how to manage and rebuild the great forest of Jura. With Velzard and the others, administration would be a breeze. He then turned his gaze to Shuna and Shin, who were both red-faced and looking down, clearly feeling awkward and self-conscious. He crooked a finger. "Come here." Both girls trembled. They sensed something very important was about to happen to them. Step by heavy step, they made their way through the warm spring water to Rao. When they stopped in front of him, they felt his eyes on them at close range, and their cheeks grew even redder. After all, while they resembled humans in figure and skin, they were still monster-kind in form, though not entirely unappealing to a human sense of beauty. Chapter 241, Ultimate Skill. Shrine Maiden of Guidance and Lord of Tyranny. Neither of you has a name, correct? Rao posed the question. Both Shin and Shuna shook their heads in unison. For monsters like us, there's no right to have a name. In this world, giving a monster a name is a very solemn, important matter. Well, if you don't have names, it's inconvenient for me to address you. From now on, you'll be called Shirai and Yushin. He named them in a way quite close to their original names. And rather offhandedly too. Yet these simple words kindled tremendous changes in Shirai and Shin. Within the hot spring, light flared briefly and then vanished just as quickly. When the radiance faded, an entirely new Shirai and Shin emerged. Their transformations were drastic. Where the Ana once had rough skin, it was now fair and smooth, the savage markings on their faces had disappeared. The large white horns on Shirai's head and the equally thick black horns on Shin's head had become more slender. Overall, their forms now align better with human aesthetics. Both of them unequivocally beautiful. But the greatest change was in their bearing. Originally, Shirai had been petite, but now she was noticeably taller and carried herself with more maturity. Shin's transformation was even more dramatic. Previously, she had a wild, warrior woman look, now she had smooth, pale skin, a gorgeous face, and an extremely full bust, giving her a stunning hourglass figure. Exuding a fierce sort of allure. They had grown up quite a bit overnight. Simply gaining names caused them to evolve drastically. Huh? This evolution? Velzard, Velgrind, Misery, and Rain all looked over in surprise. They certainly knew that Rao's naming could trigger evolution in Wikarana, but the result here surpassed all their expectations. Even Rao felt a surge of surprise. Name, Shirai, Level, 18, Abilities, Magic, Shrine Maiden of Guidance, Unawakened, Demon Lord. Type on a God, Incomplete, Name, Shin, Level, 18, Abilities, Magic, Lord of Tyranny, Locked, Demon Lord. Type on a God, Incomplete, they hadn't become Kaijin or something akin to lesser demons. Instead, they had directly leapt to the class of Demon Lord. Type on a Gods. However, because they were still quite weak, they currently existed only as incomplete Demon Lord types. Moreover, they each seemed to have a reserved, that is, destined, ultimate skill in this world. Shirai's Shrine Maiden of Guidance and Shin's Lord of Tyranny were both ultimate skills. Ultimate skills are exceptionally powerful and not something just anyone can acquire. Even many demon lords never possessed an ultimate skill. Now, these two, though as yet unawakened, had them marked out by Rao's true sight. Their potential was enormous. No one was more shocked than Shuai and Shin themselves. They could instinctively feel their abilities becoming far more potent, their bodies brimming with tremendous potential. A fundamental elevation of their essence. And it all stemmed from Reiao's act of naming them. Reiao-sama. Shuai's feelings were complex. She didn't believe she deserved this sort of gift. Shin felt the same. By offering themselves as vassals, they had never dreamed they would be treated so kindly. At best, she had thought she might be used simply as a warrior for killing foes, or as a disposable slave. Standing up in the hot spring, Reiao smiled faintly. Now that you're both mine, whatever I grant you. Just accept it, he said. Oh, and one more thing, your fellow clansmen who survived are still alive, so there's no need to worry. He had circled the entire great forest of Jura to look for a certain special slime. One he did indeed find, at the goblin settlement. Rimuru existed in this world, albeit still unable to take human form and carrying the storm dragon's presence. Reiao also saw Shuai's brother and the other Ana there. Eventually, he planned to check in on that slime. For now, he simply shared the good news with Shuai and Shin to ease their concerns. Shuai and Shin trembled with emotion. The knowledge that he had even bothered to check on their people moved them deeply. Shuai gazed into Reiao's face with burning gratitude. In that moment, she had only one thought, to truly devote herself to this man, now and forever. In the midst of that fervor, her eyes chanced to glimpse something rising from the water. Her cheeks turned the color of cherries. She pursed her lips. Under Shin's startled gaze, Shuai leaned in and grabbed hold of what she saw. Master, please allow Shuai to offer a one-sided return of gratitude, she said. Her bright, dewy eyes shone with both apprehension and anticipation. Reiao was taken aback by her sudden, bold gesture, but as a seasoned veteran, he quickly adapted. A smirk tugged at his lips. Go ahead. Hearing those words, Shuai shyly but eagerly bent down to take hold of it. What is? Shin and Traini were dumbfounded by the scene. Velzard, Velgrind, Misery, and Rain all crowded closer. None of them showed any embarrassment, they were mainly just curious. Velzard, oh, so that's how humans do it? Velgrind, so weird. Is it really pleasurable? Rain, not sure, but judging by Master's face, it can't be bad. Misery, Master, can I try too? Of course. But you might have to get in line. Seeing as they chose this place to talk business, there was no way he'd let anyone slip by. Velzard, I call first. I'm the one who originally made a pact with Reiao. Velgrind, fine, then I'm second. The group began quarreling over the order. Shin's lips twitched slightly. Was it really okay for them to do something so shameless so casually? And yet, seeing Shuai's enraptured state, she found herself reflexively licking her own lips. Meanwhile, Shizu gave Traini a gentle smile from farther off. Traini, stunned, forced to smile back at her. She knew she wouldn't be able to escape this fate either. Sigh. At that moment, another pair of footsteps approached. Reiao didn't even have to turn around before grinning mischievously, so you did come after all, Futaba. He's not back yet. Rio mentally counted the time. Futaba had stepped out for some fresh air a while ago and hadn't returned. Rio felt uneasy staying here alone. She got up to go look for her other self. But the moment she reached the door, her expression froze. She touched her lips with her right hand. It's starting again. That strange sensation of being touched gripped her, this time from her lips downward. MMPH. She let out a muffled sound of alarm as if lightning coursed through her body, sparking from her lips to lower places. And no. Rio cried out. But, of course, her protest didn't stop the bizarre phenomenon. Not long after, she slumped to the floor, leaning against the door, soft whimpers escaping her lips. Chapter 242, 7 Kinds of Pleasure and 7 Demon Lord left after Shizu ended the live stream. Reiao thoroughly indulged himself in earthly pleasures. Each partner gave him a distinctly different sensation. Shizu's purity, Futaba's timidness, Shuai's submission, Shin's intensity, Velzard's wildness, Velgrind's dominance, Traini's maturity. For Reiao, this was paradise. His highest form of praise. How was it, experiencing the human way? Velzard asked, lying against his chest, her expression relaxed. A flirtatious look passed through Velzard's eyes. It was an interesting experience, but why not do it in dragon form sometime? Dragon. In his mind, Reiao imagined 2 dragons. One red, one white. Intertwined. He could only conclude that it seemed rather bizarre. Maybe another time, he said dismissively. Then, standing up from the hot spring, he addressed them all. Before I leave, I think it's necessary for some of you to get a strength boost. He couldn't always rely on Velzard and the others to protect him. Besides, it would be a waste not to leverage his Demon Lord authority. In this world, the strongest beings are mainly a handful of demon lords and dragons. Next tier down are monsters around or just shy of calamity level. Velzard, Rain, Velgrind, and Misery undoubtedly belong to the upper echelon, and Rain and Misery had grown even stronger under Rao's protection, blessing. Name, Primordial Green. Misery, level, 57, abilities, Magic, Dragon Force, Demon King, Chaos King, Rao's blessing, inherent device, Chaos, name, Primordial Blue. Rain, level, 57, abilities, Magic, Dragon Force, Demon King, Order King, Rao's blessing, inherent device, Order. Even Shirai and Shin had managed to acquire ultimate skills. It wasn't surprising that these primordials would be even less limited. Meanwhile, Velgrind finally attained the power of True Crimson, name, True Crimson Flame Dragon. Velgrind, level, 63, abilities, True Crimson Flame Dragon, Crimson King, Salvation King, Rao's blessing, inherent device, Crimson Crown. She was so excited that she begged Rao to go pick some grass in Egypt again, i.e. have fun. As for Shirai, Shin, and Traini, who had truly become his, they also got somewhat stronger, mainly in terms of racial potential and future power. Name, Traini, level, 18, abilities, Nature Magic, Rao's blessing, Nature King, Unawakened, Demon Lord. Type Forest Queen, incomplete, inherent device, Forest Guardian, name, Shirai, level, 18, abilities, Magic, Dragon Force, Rao's blessing, Shrine Maiden of Guidance, Unawakened, inherent device, Priestess, Demon Lord. Type on a God, incomplete, name, Shin, level, 18, abilities, Magic, Dragon Force, Rao's blessing, inherent device, Battle Armor, Lord of Tyranny, locked, Demon Lord. Type on a God, incomplete, all three brimmed with potential, each destined at minimum for calamity level. Moreover, they had a self-growth feature. Defeating enemies to level up. Rao expected them to reach at least catastrophe level in time. With such potential, it would be a waste to let it lie dormant. As long as he remained in this world, they would at least hunt down some powerful monsters for experience. Monsters above disaster level were all premium XP. While Rao and his group swept the world, slaying monsters. In a grand castle somewhere else, a major event was unfolding. The space was vast, lavishly decorated. In the castle's great hall stood a long table and several chairs. At that moment, 6 very different individuals waited quietly for something. TCH. I was just about to find some fun. Why did you all summon me here? A crisp but annoyed voice rang out. In the blink of an eye, a petite girl with pink hair appeared, her face showing clear displeasure. Milim. Lady Milim, we called an urgent Demon Lord Council because it concerns the birth and death of a new Demon Lord. We beg your understanding, said a slender man with white hair and half-closed eyes. Flamen. Demon Lord Council. Everyone present was a Demon Lord. Known as the Marionette Master, Clayman was tall, with silver white hair, red eyes, and 2 gold-lined marks on his forehead. He often wore a devilish smirk. Like right now. Besides him, there was Frey, the Sky Queen Carrion, the Lion King Dagrul, the Wicked God Luminous, Queen of Nightmares Ramarise, Fairy Queen, and now, Milim, the Destroyer, who just arrived. Together, they accounted for 7 of the so-called 10 Demon Lords. The tiny fairy-like Ramarise glanced at the group, saying, so that means only Guy, Dino, and Leon haven't shown yet. Ha. Frey, with white feathered wings, gave a yawn, her demeanor somewhat lazy. Dino and Leon definitely won't come. Leon Cromwell, the Platinum Saber, Dino, the Sleeping Ruler. They almost never showed up at these gatherings, something she came to expect. But for Guy to be late. Isn't that unlike him? Oh, him? He's probably not coming, Milim said casually as she plopped herself into a seat and started stuffing her face with the provided food. He's not coming? They all looked at Milim in confusion. Ramarise flitted her translucent wings, flying up near Milim's face. She was the only one here who dared get so close. Mostly because Milim, for all her ridiculous power, acted like a willful child. You never knew if she might suddenly punch someone. Ramarise, though, was something of an exception. A special case among Demon Lords. Long ago, Guy Crimson, the Arbiter of the World, had tried to protect the Central Axis world by confronting the enraged Dragon Princess Milim after her pet dragon was killed. They fought for 7 days and 7 nights without a victor. Ultimately, thanks to Ramarise's intervention, Milim snapped out of her frenzy, and Ramarise exhausted herself moving all that massive destructive energy to another dimension. Chapter 243, The Forest is Mine, understand? Back then, Ramarise hadn't been the Fairy Queen but a higher existence known as the Spirit Queen. However, because she had exhausted her powers during that incident, she fell from grace and degenerated. From Spirit Queen to Fairy Queen. And became the third Demon Lord following Guy and Milim. Together with them, she co-founded what came to be called the Demon Lord's Banquet. In her days as Spirit Queen, Ramarise hadn't needed to undergo reincarnation. But after degenerating into the Fairy Queen, she had to be reborn continuously. Whenever Ramarise's magic power reached its maximum limit, she would birth an avatar. A new Ramarise. Who inherited her identity in full. Even in reincarnation, Ramarise's ego, her self-awareness, persisted through each generation. Thus, Ramarise was the only hereditary demon lord. One advantage of this cyclical rebirth was that every time Ramarise grew up in a new body, her power would surpass that of her mother. Each fully matured Ramarise ended up stronger than the last generation. The downside was that, before maturing, she remained very weak and required protection. Hence, Ramarise constantly wavered between evolution and degeneration, growing stronger and weaker by turns. At present, Ramarise's latest incarnation was still very young. Hence her childlike form, small body, and somewhat childish temperament. Even so, no one dared mess with her, because Guy and Milim were still around. That also explained why Ramarise felt free to flutter right up to Milim so casually. Nevertheless, everyone was puzzled by Milim's earlier remark. But she just went on stuffing her face, clearly reluctant to explain. Ah, Milim, stop eating and just tell us. What happened with Guy? Ramarise, exasperated, grabbed at Milim's cheeks with her tiny hands. Oh, looks like someone beat him up. He was all bruised, face swollen like a pig's. Probably embarrassed to show up. Eventually Milim spilled the beans. Her words caused quite a stir. Eh? Ramarise exclaimed in shock. The other demon lords wore equally incredulous expressions. Frey arched her refined brows over her lovely face. Primordial Red was beaten by someone? The red and blue-eyed Queen of Nightmares, Luminous, spoke in a low voice. Impossible. No one could believe it. Guy Crimson stood for the apex of power in the current world. Who could possibly beat him to a pulp? The only one who might have done so was the Star King Dragon, but he was long dead. The next candidate was Milim herself. Take it or leave it. I only know what I saw, Milim said indifferently, waving them off. There was nothing more to do but try to gauge how real her account might be. Ramarise clapped her tiny hands as if to change the subject. Even if Guy is not here, it doesn't really matter. We're basically here to talk about a monster that became a demon lord but then died. Not much of an issue. After all, it was already dead. It couldn't shake up the balance among the 10 demon lords if it was gone. So, no big deal. Oh, then hurry it up. I've got better things to do, Milim said, sounding bored. Alright, Ramarise agreed, turning to Clayman. You're the one who brought this news. Go on. My pleasure. Clayman displayed his signature sly smile. This matter concerns a orc who evolved into a demon lord type in the Great Forest of Jura. The Great Forest of Jura will belong to me from here on out. Before Clayman could continue, a voice cut him off. Who? All the demon lords snapped their gazes to see that someone was now sitting in Guy's seat. A black-haired man. Seated on the arm of the chair beside him was a white-haired woman. Milim's eyes went round. Great aunt? She addressed the woman like that. Milim, long time no see. Velzard smiled, greeting Milim. Everyone looked grave. They knew of this frost dragon, Milim's aunt, and recognized her draconic aura. But who was the black-haired man sitting in Guy's seat? Clayman, eyes narrowed, asked. Uninvited guest. What do you mean by saying the Great Forest of Jura is yours? Faced with the frost dragon, he couldn't put on much of an air. Rayao gave him a brief glance and let out a cold chuckle. Just as you heard. From now on, the Great Forest of Jura is mine. There's no need for you lot to fight over it. Oh, and by the way, that so-called demon lord type in the Great Forest of Jura? I'm the one who killed it. What did you say? Clayman's face darkened first, even before anyone else could react. A shadow flickered in his eyes. In the next moment, TCH. Veins bulged on Clayman's forehead, his eyes bulging as well. Did I give you permission to raise your voice? Rayao's tone was frigid, and he wore a wicked smile. Demon Lord Clayman. Member of the Moderate Harlequin Alliance and known as the Crazy Pirate, right? You're the one who masterminded events in the Great Forest of Jura, aren't you? All the demon lords stared at Clayman in shock. It wasn't the alleged scheming that startled them so much as his ghastly expression. He looked like he was suffocating under some crushing force, veins popping all over, blood trickling from every orifice. They had no idea what was happening to him. Clayman himself felt as though his body was being crushed by the entire world. He couldn't move. He couldn't even summon his power. If it went on like this, he'd be squashed to death by some invisible force. Fighting for his life, he managed to work his blood-soaked mouth, and not. Clayman tried to deny it. But before he could finish. Boom. For no apparent reason, Clayman's body burst apart, spraying blood and flesh across the meeting room chairs, table, and walls. "Sorry, but I don't need to hear your excuses," Rael murmured. With a single thought, he had erased Clayman. He had no interest in the man's explanations or attempts at self-defense. Clayman wasn't worthy of talking things out on equal footing. Velzard let out a regretful sigh. "Oh, Rael, you should have let me kill him. I'm itchy for a good fight." "No need. Touching that clown would just dirty your hands." Rael ran his hand over Velzard's palm, then turned a chilly smile toward the remaining demon lords. "So I'll say it again, the great forest of Jura is mine. Do you all understand?" Chapter 244, Rimuru. Demon Lord Clayman was dead. That shocking reality was not only heard by the demon lords present. It happened right in front of their eyes. Clayman's presence had vanished entirely. Even though his blood and flesh were scattered all over the meeting room, not a trace of his aura could be sensed. It was as though his spirit, body, and soul had been completely severed from the world, leaving no chance for resurrection. That was exactly what Raow had done. He had no qualms about erasing a clownish schemer like Clayman at will. Aside from Milim, whose level was 70. Most of these demon lords were generally between levels 55 and 60. There was no need for Raow to even exert the effort of swatting a fly. A single thought was enough to kill Clayman. Of course, he wasn't someone who just killed indiscriminately. Unless the other demon lords present provoked him, he wouldn't treat them as mere experience bags. For a moment, the other demon lords remained utterly silent, no one daring to speak first. Then Milim, eyes shining, mustered her courage and approached Raow, leaning in close, sniffing the air near him. Sniff, sniff. "So that other scent I noticed was you." Milim looked at Velzard with curiosity. "Great, and are you the ones who turned Guy into a pig head?" Velzard said with a raised corner of her mouth. "It was thanks to your uncle, here uncle?" Milim blinked her bright eyes. She turned to Raow. "You're my uncle? You don't have to call me that. My name is Raow." Oh, I'm Milim. "But can you tell me how you beat up Guy?" Milim was extremely curious. She knew better than anyone just how powerful Guy truly was. "How did I beat him? Well, basically like this." Snap. Raow simply snapped his fingers. What's going on?" "My power." All the demon lords' faces changed dramatically. They suddenly found they couldn't sense their own power, nor the magicules in the air. It was as if they had been turned into utterly ordinary humans in an instant. Snap. Raow snapped his fingers again. Their power returned. "Huh?" Milim let out a small sound of surprise. She tested a few swings of her fist and asked, puzzled. "What did you just do?" "Oh, I just temporarily stripped all of you of your power," Raow said lightly. That casual remark sent a tremor through every demon lord present. Now they understood how he had beaten Guy so badly. They were also filled with uncertainty. What kind of being was Raow, to render them all powerless, unable to resist? Could even the Star Dragon King do something like that? "You're really strong." For the first time, Milim looked serious. "Thanks," Raow said with a smile. He then swept his gaze across the demon lords, all of whom wore grim expressions. "Clayman tried to pull a few sneaky tricks in my territory, attempting to create a demon lord type. I killed him. Any objections?" They all shook their heads almost instantly. With Clayman's gruesome death before their eyes, who would dare protest? Anyone who spoke out might be the next Clayman. "From this moment on, I don't want to see any trouble arising in the great forest of Jura. Understood?" "Understood." Cold sweat ran down the demon lords' backs. More than anything, they wanted to get back to their lands and call off any plans involving contesting the great forest of Jura. Good. Raow was satisfied with their response. Still, there was one more thing to mention. "I'm going to cleanse this world of some disaster-level monsters. You'd better keep your subordinates in check. Don't blame me for accidental kills." With that final reminder, Raow and Velzard vanished from the meeting room. Silence reigned for several seconds. Then all the demon lords looked at one another, silently deciding it would be best to leave at once. Each vanished, eager to return home and keep their people in line. As for Clayman's death? What did that have to do with them? Clayman didn't get along well with anyone anyway. Better that he died than they. No one wanted to provoke an even bigger disaster. In the now empty meeting room, only Milim remained. She stared at the chair where Raow had been, lost in thought. In the goblin settlement. On a cliff overlooking the area, a red-haired Kaijin stood with a furrowed brow, gazing into the distance. "Benimaru, is something on your mind?" A voice spoke from behind him. The Kaijin. "Benimaru." turned to see a horned wolf approaching. Riding on the wolf's back was a blue slime. Benimaru bowed his head politely. Lord Rimuru. Haha, no need to be so formal. The blue slime wriggled. That was Rimuru. Benimaru was the prince of the ogre tribe. During an attack by the orc tribe, he and a few others had been rescued by Rimuru. Rimuru even named him Benimaru, enabling him to evolve from an ogre to a kaijin. Hence, Benimaru and the other survivors pledged loyalty to Rimuru. But he still had a heavy concern on his mind. Rimuru had noticed and came to talk with him. Benimaru, you're still troubled by the matter of the orc tribe, right? I sent out scouts, and it seems that the orc tribe vanished overnight. The forest seems to have returned to peace. Benimaru was silent for a while, looking bitter. My sister. I don't know if she's still alive. A family member? Rimuru could more or less guess what was going on. The blue slime's posture turned serious. Alright, I'll help you look for your sister. Thank you so much, Lord Rimuru. Benimaru felt incredibly grateful, convinced he'd pledged his loyalty to the right person. Onyai-chan. Suddenly, he heard a voice that was both unfamiliar and strangely familiar at the same time. Looking up, he saw Shuna and Shin, both drastically changed in appearance, accompanied by a woman wearing a mask. Grr. The wolf beneath Rimuru bared its fangs, letting out a low growl at the three strangers. Rimuru spoke up. Ranga, don't show hostility. The wolf, addressed as Ranga, obediently curbed its aggression. You three, I'm the leader here. Mind telling me what brings you here? Rimuru asked warily. He understood why Ranga had grown hostile. The trio's aura and magicules were nothing to scoff at, especially the masked woman, whose strength rivaled Rimuru's own. And my sister? Benimaru, still puzzled as to why these two looked so familiar, suddenly realized. It had to be. Onyai-chan, it's me. Shuna stepped forward. Shizu quietly stayed back, letting the siblings reunite. After joining Rao and helping defeat many powerful monsters, she had been sent by Rao to protect Shuna on her journey to find her brother. Chapter 245, Storm Dragon Shuna. So you, too, found a benefactor. Reunited at last, the siblings filled each other in on what had happened since they parted. Benimaru was deeply moved that his little sister and Shin had been saved by some great figure who not only rescued them but granted them names and blessings. No wonder he barely recognized them. They had undergone an evolution, just like he and the others had. The two of them talked openly, without concealing anything from Rimuru. After hearing their story, he asked in puzzlement. Wait, so you're saying the orc tribe disaster in the Great Forest of Juro was resolved by someone named Rao? Shuna nodded, wearing an expression of reverence. Master not only defeated the orc demon lord but apparently also got formal recognition of the forest's ownership from the 10 demon lords. At that, she straightened her stance and locked eyes with Rimuru. I take it you're the leader of the goblin settlement, correct? Yes, that'd be me. I've come not just to see my brother but also to inform you that, within the forest, you are expected to abide by its rules. Abide by the rules? Rimuru grew thoughtful, wondering whether that meant being subordinate to someone else or if it might pose a problem for the goblin settlement. After all, he was responsible for the future of the entire tribe. Nearby, a masked woman, Shizu, stepped forward, her voice cool. This isn't a threat, but it isn't up for negotiation, either. It's just a notification. She added. Rao asked me to tell you this. The two elder sisters of the Storm Dragon are looking forward to seeing him. In other words, Velzard and Velgrind were just itching for a punching bag. As a slime, Rimuru couldn't help but betray his shock. Inside him, the Storm Dragon stirred with an uneasy murmur, better give in. Having been swallowed along with its seal, Veldora, the Storm Dragon, broke out in a cold sweat upon hearing mention of his two elder sisters. Right now, he dearly wanted to know who this mysterious presence behind the Great Forest of Juro was. Just from these simple statements, Rimuru realized he was dealing with someone who had killed a newly risen demon lord, formally secured the forest's ownership from the 10 demon lords, and had subordinates that included the Storm Dragon's two astonishingly powerful sisters, with Veldora urging him to give in. Rimuru made up his mind. He nodded seriously. Understood. The goblin settlement will respect the rules of the forest. Good. Shizu nodded toward Shuna and Shin. We're done here. Let's go back. Brother. Shuna glanced at Benimaru. He finally came around. He didn't understand much, but it was clear his sister had been taken under the wing of a truly significant figure, with a very bright future. In the end, Benimaru let go, knowing that his sister was all grown up. Folding his arms across his chest, he laughed loudly. No worries, sis. I won't be standing still, either. She replied, beaming from her brother's support. After the trio departed, Rimuru noticed Benimaru standing there in deep thought. Benimaru, What's on your mind? It's nothing, Lord Rimuru, Benimaru said, shaking his head with a bitter grin. I was just thinking that my once little sister isn't just grown up. She might now be stronger than me, too. Rimuru didn't really know what to say. From the look of it, the magicules coursing within Shuna vastly exceeded Benimaru's own. But I won't let that get me down. Benimaru's eyes glimmered with determination, his competitive spirit fully ignited. It was good to have a bit of ambition. But Veldora wasn't so optimistic about his prospects. During the ongoing monster hunts led by Rayao, everyone's growth rate had skyrocketed. Frankly, to a ridiculous degree. Name, Traini, level 25, name, Shuna, level 28, name, Shun, level 28. Even Futaba had made massive progress, name, Futaba Rio, level 15. Of course, no one's gains matched Rayao's. Who knew how many powerful monsters he had wiped out, plus 2 demon lords fallen by his hand, name, Rayao, level 63, abilities, omitted, possessions, omitted, description, even a dazzling star is but a plaything at your fingertips. That cryptic summary hardly did justice to his actual prowess. He'd risen 8 whole levels while in this world. Its monsters truly were premium XP. Were it not for a concern that mass slaughter might hamper Velzard and the others' environment, Rayao would have been tempted to hunt down yet more demon lords. But, luckily, he was kind-hearted. With little time left in his stay, Rayao gave Traini some parting instructions and then left this world, bringing Futaba and Rio along. Throughout the process, Rio had remained uncharacteristically quiet, her eyes tinged with complexity as they darted between Rayao and Futaba. Rayao took note and offered a timely reminder. Rio, you've been gone 2 days. You'd better come up with a story for your family. He himself could rely on Shizu, so missing a bit of school caused no big issues. But Rio had basically been yanked here out of nowhere. Futaba Rio abruptly recalled that fact. How would her family have reacted to her disappearance? Seeing the change in her expression, Rayao merely said, better go check on them first. Back home. For Futaba Rio, it was just a flash of light. Her vision blinked, and the next moment, she was in her own bedroom again. Rio? Hearing movement, her family rushed in. Seeing their anxious faces, Rio felt touched. And braced herself to lie. Carefully piecing together a scientifically rigorous excuse, she spent quite a while explaining her disappearance. Eventually, it was enough to reassure her family. They, too, didn't overthink it, seeing her safe was relief enough. Accepting her need to rest, her parents left her room. Alone once more, Rio stood in silence. Then she lifted her hand. Drip, drip. A swirl of invisible blue water curled around her arm. She felt the power she'd gained from Rayao surging, even though she had done nothing to cultivate it. One thought came to her mind. Futaba. Combined with the bizarre incidents in her own body over the past days, she formed a deeply unsettling suspicion. Futaba and Rayao, there. Lowering her gaze to her skirt, Futaba Rio realized, for the first time, that leaving Futaba alone in Rayao's care had likely been a huge mistake. Chapter 246, Soy, Best Mischievous Wingman Rayao, Mr. Kirisu came looking for you yesterday. Both Mai and Toru were already used to Rayao coming and going to other worlds. Futaba, however, came back looking exhausted. Legs weak, body limp. Heading to her room to rest. That made Mai feel a little jealous. She didn't need to guess what those two had been up to for the past couple of days out there. When he returned, Mai told him what had happened over the past 2 days. Rayao glanced at his phone. Indeed, there were several missed calls. One from Mifakirasu, and another from Sumika Fujimiya. I see. He first texted Sumika Fujimiya, Rayao, you were looking for me? In a university classroom, Fujimiya Sumika, who had been listening intently to the lecture, felt her phone vibrate. Taking it out, she stared at it in shock. He replied? Fujimiya's eyes widened. Previously, when she called, it said the number was out of service range, and she wondered if the number Rayao gave her was fake. Anxiously, she placed her phone on the desk. She felt nervous and didn't know how to respond. The girl with long black hair and a constant, cat-like smile sitting next to her gave Fujimiya a curious glance and whispered. Sumika, what's going on? It's that guy who helped me the other day. I wanted to return his jacket, but I'm not sure how to ask. Huh? Her friend, Soy, recalled how Sumika told her about the young man named Rayao. Immediately intrigued, she offered. Let me help you. Before long, Fujimiya Sumika, yes, I tried contacting you before, but it said you were out of the service area. Rayao, I wasn't home the past couple of days. Fujimiya Sumika, oh. Rayao, so, what did you need? Fujimiya Sumika, I wanted to say I washed your jacket and planned to return it. Rayao, Alright, my address is X. A. Both Fujimiya and Sui were startled to see him send an address so casually. He's so unconcerned about safety, isn't he? That was his home address, after all. Sui remembered Sumika mentioning he seemed to be a high schooler. Immediately, an image of a naive, pure-hearted boy surfaced in her mind. As a friend who worried too much, Sui typed a response on Sumika's behalf. Fujimiya Sumika, you shouldn't give your home address to someone you barely know. What if they turn out to be a bad person? Rao, haha. In many ways, I don't worry about bad people. Actually, Fujimiya, you're the one who should worry about being tricked. Right now, with Rao's power, even if the entire world launched its nuclear arsenal at him, he'd remain unfazed. Anyone harboring evil intentions would likely perish before they knew what happened. Fujimiya Sumika, no matter what, you should still be careful. Don't harm others, but always guard yourself. Rao, sure. Then how would you like to give me the jacket? Fujimiya Sumika, do you have time this weekend? Reading Sui's text, Sumika froze. Why are you asking him that? I can just bring the jacket over to his place, she whispered. Sui merely grinned. Just watch. Rao, I do. As long as it wasn't business, in the sense of dealing with trades or fights, he was pretty free. Fujimiya Sumika, then let's meet up this weekend. I'd like to treat you to say thanks for helping me out. Think of it as a little date, if that's okay. A date? Before Sumika could stop her, Sui had already pressed send. What are you doing? I never said anything about a date. Sumika's cheeks went red. Hey. Sui nudged her friend's shoulder, smirking mischievously. Sumika, you've never had a boyfriend, right? He's a bright, innocent young guy. Give it a try. What are you talking about? Sumika blushed fiercely, feeling as though her friend was teasing her about being an older woman chasing after a younger man. But then memories of that day came flooding back, being swept up in his arms, saved from an out-of-control car, wrapped in his jacket, and escorted home. Her heart pounded at the thought. Most importantly, Rao was incredibly handsome and composed, with an unforgettable aura. Humans are, after all, emotional creatures, and in a world that values appearances, Sumika was hardly immune. In truth, she had never met a guy quite like him. Even her childhood friend, Kingwin, couldn't compare. So, to put it bluntly, Sumika felt rather taken with Rao. A tiny, expectant look flashed across her face, which Sui picked up on immediately. She had a hunch, seeing how often Sumika mentioned Rao lately. Now it was confirmed. Part of her was definitely playing matchmaker, but she also wanted to see for herself what this mysterious Rao, who'd so captured her friend's attention, was really like. Though she teased Sumika on the surface, she also hoped to protect her friend from any possible harm. Sumika was clueless about relationships, and Sui wanted to be there for her. At that moment, Rao's new message grabbed their attention. Rao, a date, huh? No problem. Let me know the details. Sumika's cheeks instantly glowed red. He really thinks it's a date. What do I do? Should I explain that it's not? Sui nearly burst out laughing at her shy panic. Look at you, blushing so hard. Gosh. She wanted to roll her eyes at Sumika's flustered state. Before Sumika could say another word, Sui took the phone and typed some more, then sent it. Fujimiya Sumika, I'm looking forward to going on a date with you, Rao. Sumika froze. She would never say something like that. It was too embarrassing, too contrived. Sui gave her a confident twink. Relax. This works great on younger guys. Really? Sumika looked dubious. You're underestimating me. Rolling up her sleeves, Sui said dramatically. Just leave it to me. I'll teach you some flirting. Seduction tactics, okay? She had read piles of romance novels and was convinced she had experience to share. Sumika had no idea why, but she felt far from reassured. Nonetheless, she pretended not to be paying attention even as she secretly perked her ears to listen to Sui's animated explanations. Who knew? Maybe it would help. Meanwhile, across town, Rao examined the messages on his phone with a quizzical smile. He could tell right away there were at least two people on the other side, each typing differently. One of them seemed to be teasing about going on a date. In any case, he was fine with it. He actually saw it as a nice perk. It was like someone handing him a pillow just when he was ready to nap. If he met this friend who was encouraging the date, he'd definitely give her the Best Mischievous Wingman award. Chapter 247, Reaction Down There. After finishing his chat with Fujimiya Sumika, Rao headed over to Mifagirasu's place. Ding dong. Ding dong. Huh? Rao, you're back? Mifagirasu was surprised to see him. According to what Mai had told her, Rao had gone away on some errand out of town, with no clear return date. Ms. Garasu, I said you were looking for me about something, so I thought I'd drop by. Rayao answered casually, his eyes falling on her apron. And the spatula she was holding. Seems like you haven't had dinner yet. Sorry if I came at a bad time. Mafagarasu's body stiffened slightly. At that moment, Rayao sniffed the air and, wearing a puzzled expression, said, Ms. Garasu, I smell something burning. Eh? Alarmed, Mafa's expression changed at once. She hurriedly dug out a pair of disposable slippers. Come inside. She hurried back to her kitchen. When Rayao stepped in, he found Mafagarasu slumped in front of a pot of charred, unidentifiable food. Rayao asked curiously. What were you trying to make? Green pepper stir-fry with shredded pork. Ever since she'd embarrassed herself in front of Rayao on 2 separate occasions, Mafagarasu had decided to try changing. She planned to cook for herself, beginning with something as simple as green pepper pork. But no matter what step she took, she couldn't get it right, and the end result always burned. Now, the smell was even making her wrinkle her nose. Sigh, maybe I really don't have any talent for domestic stuff. Once again feeling thoroughly dejected, Mafagarasu wallowed in self-pity, on the verge of giving up again. But right then, Rayao took the pot from her, dumped out the burnt mess, and looked at her firmly. Ms. Garasu, remember our earlier agreement? Huh? Mafa's first reaction was confusion. She didn't recall such a thing. Until Rayao said. I told you I'd help you change. From now on, let me teach you. I'll be the teacher, showing you how to make green pepper stir-fry. Is that really okay for me? Her lack of confidence made Mafa hesitate. She was afraid to try again. If she still failed, she'd be so discouraged she might never recover. Ms. Garasu, I believe you can do this. Even someone like you it could be taught, so someone like Mafagarasu was no problem at all. But there's a condition. Condition? During the lesson, you have to call me teacher. Huh? Mafagarasu was stunned. This felt too weird. Like turning the world upside down. It's just a tiny condition. That shouldn't be a problem for you, right? Seeing Rayao's mischievous look, Mafagarasu nodded stiffly with a serious face. Fine, I'll do it. Yet even as she agreed, she found it terribly awkward to actually call Rayao someone younger than her teacher. It felt so out of place that the words got stuck in her throat. She saw him start to set the pot aside, a look of disappointment on his face. To make a change, she steeled herself. Rayao-sensei. Gripping her apron, she shouted it out loud. At that moment, she felt a sort of shackle break inside her heart. Rayao smiled broadly. Great, Mafo. Let's get started. Rayao planned to correct every step she took from the very beginning, so he wanted to see how she did things on her own first. Alright, let's begin. He placed the meat on the cutting board, motioning for her to start. Okay. Mafagarasu took a deep breath, knife in hand, ready to slice. Only a moment passed before Rayao felt speechless. Apparently, she wanted to cut the pork into thin strips. But she was bent so low over the cutting board, her face practically an inch away from the meat, as if she needed a super close-up view to get it perfect. Truly pure, frame-by-frame concentration. Even worse, she was holding the knife incorrectly, her posture for slicing was off, and the way she held the meat in place was also wrong. After a while, Rayao worried she cut her fingers or stab herself near the eyes at this rate. He finally stepped in. Mafo, straighten your back. He gave her a light pat, causing her to jerk upright. What are you doing? Of course. I'm going to teach you how to slice properly. Rayao stood behind her, placing his hands on her wrists. Now, follow my movements. He had no ulterior motives, just genuinely trying to teach her hand-to-hand. Feeling his body so close and his hands guiding her wrists, Mafagarasu's entire body began heating up. But noticing how earnest Rayao was about the lesson, she swallowed any complaints she had and forced herself to focus on his movements. Moments later, her eyes lit up. This was it. Slicing felt so smooth, unlike the fumbling carefulness she'd shown before. She got really into it, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction that kept her from wanting to stop. How does that feel? Better? Yes. Finally, Mafagarasu realized that at some point Rayao had let go of her wrists and stepped aside. Meaning? I did that all by myself just now? Seeing the neat, uniform cuts. Completely different from what she'd done before. Mafagarasu could hardly believe it was her own work. Rayao smiled. See? I told you you could do it. Alright, let's stop slicing there. We'll never finish it all, and we need to move on to the next step. Yes, Rayao-sensei. She'd practically forgotten he was younger than her, being complimented by him felt as if she'd just been praised by an older mentor, making her overjoyed. After that, at each step, Rayao guided her hand by hand. She didn't mind at all, wholly focused on making the dish. Eventually, they neared the end of the cooking process. With Rao's help, she emptied the stir-fry into a plate and set the wok aside. As the aroma of perfectly cooked green pepper pork drifted up, Mafagarasu couldn't contain her excitement, jumping up in delight. I did it. It's perfect? Had that been all, no problem. But her sudden jump caused her soft body to bounce right against Rao standing behind her. Exactly. In that spot. She froze, eyes wide, her cheeks reddening as she turned to face Rao, lips pressed together in disbelief. You reacted to me? Rao stared at her blankly, bewildered. What in the world is she talking about? Chapter 248, This is the normal size. Rao. How could you? Mafagarasu's eyes were filled with disappointment and distress, because the relationship between the two of them absolutely should not be possible. Rao tugged at the corner of his mouth and spread his hands. Nizgarasu, could it be you're being overly sensitive? Impossible. Mafagarasu was certain she hadn't imagined it. That distinct shape just now must have been Rao's physical reaction. Sigh. Rao took a deep breath. He had never expected to be so seriously misunderstood over something like this. Apparently, having a superhuman body could bring some small inconveniences, too. At that, Rao raised both hands to his waist, preparing to loosen his belt. Seeing this, Mafagarasu froze. Why you? What are you doing? What am I doing? Obviously, I'm going to prove my innocence to you, Ms. Garasu. His hands kept working. Stop, stop, stop. Events were spiraling far beyond what Mafa's mind could handle. Panicking, she frantically gestured for him to stop. He did stop. Though he continued in a firm tone, I can't let you wrongly accuse me and tarnish my reputation. You have to let me prove myself. Fine, I believe you. Okay? Mafagarasu was truly worried he might do something extreme. However, Rao stepped closer, firmly removing her waving hand from in front of her face. Meeting her eyes, he said in a low voice. I can hear the perfunctory tone in your voice. This issue concerns your opinion of my character, so I must prove it. What I'm saying is that my physique is unusual, and what you sensed earlier when we made contact was just how my body normally is. He really was telling the truth. Absolutely not. Mafagarasu refused resolutely, her cheeks bright red. I definitely can't look. Oh? At her words, Rao's brow shifted. He raised an insinuating smile. So not looking at it is fine, then. Maybe you can check it through my clothes with your hand? Eh? Mafa was speechless. That didn't sound okay either. But faced with Rao's serious gaze, she began to doubt if she had misunderstood him. If they couldn't sort it out, this unerasable wedge might remain between them. And in accusing him unfairly, she might do psychological harm. High school students were sensitive. She saw that in her own classes. If this affected Rao's future, she'd feel guilty forever. Alright, fine. In the end, she decided to accept Rao's request. So Mafagarasu really did as she was told. But she was clearly nervous. Rao lifted an eyebrow. Ms. Garasu, are you maybe putting too much force into your hand? Good thing he wasn't an ordinary person. Eh? Mafagarasu's expression changed. She said seriously. Sorry. Rao, let me see if there's any problem. Right now she had to fulfill her responsibility and make sure there was no actual harm done. Otherwise she wouldn't be able to rest easy. No need. Even though your grip is shockingly strong, it's really not a big deal for me. He was inclined to decline, but hearing him describe her force as shockingly strong only made Mifa more unsettled. She insisted, not allowing refusal. Behave. This is a serious matter, and potentially dangerous. We need to be sure of everything. Even if something is wrong, I won't run from my responsibility as your teacher. Since she insisted so strongly, Rao had no reason to refuse. Then. Shall we move to the living room? Mifa hastily pulled all the curtains closed. She stood before Rao without any concern for embarrassment, fully intent on addressing this earnestly and seriously. Until Rao followed her instructions. Seeing it with her own eyes, Mafagarasu froze, not daring to move a muscle. Ms. Garasu? Only when Rao spoke did she snap out of her trance, her flushed face twisting into an awkward, stiff smile. Don't worry. I'll examine everything carefully. She felt something in her heart crack open. With apprehension for the unknown as well as a sliver of curiosity, she began fumbling through her inspection. A while later. From the surface, everything looks okay. She finally breathed a long sigh of relief. But when she looked up, tears glimmered faintly in her eyes, and she startled Rao with her next words, but we need to confirm its function, too. Rao's eyebrow twitched. Originally, he'd only planned a simple checkup. But now that she'd said this, He let her see exactly what strength was. Already formidable, it looked even more impressive in her hands. She finally understood the meaning of unusual that Rao had mentioned before. Ms. Garasu, if it's too much, let's just forget it. I feel like I'm perfectly fine. No way. Mufagirasa stood her ground, insisting on completing this verification. Otherwise, she would feel guilty the rest of her life. Chapter 249, Examination Results. Splash. Mufagirasa dashed off to take a bath. Feeling perfectly at ease, Rao lazed on the sofa. Apart from the green pepper stir-fry Mufa had made, there were 2 more dishes on the dining table, both cooked by Rao. The main reason was that her physical exam on him had taken at least several dozen minutes. Not only did she end up exhausted, but she'd also been tossed around by Rao's rather exaggerated momentum, leaving her drenched and in disarray. Although she confirmed Rao was perfectly healthy, Mufagirasa felt a powerful sense of wanting to die from embarrassment. Those 2 extra dishes were Rao's way of making up for the trouble she went through on his behalf. But even so, she had been holed up in the bathroom for over half an hour now. Rao called out. Ms. Garasu, as soon as you're done bathing, come out and eat. Otherwise, the food's going to get cold. Alright. Her voice was flustered and barely audible. Before long. Click. Having changed clothes, Mufagirasa opened the bathroom door and came out, her body unnaturally stiff as she headed straight for the dining table. Without so much as a glance Rao's way. She had no idea how to face him now, and her cheeks burned whenever she even sensed his presence. It wasn't just that her body felt overheated, her limbs also felt weak. Rao didn't push for conversation. They sat at the table in silence, eating without speaking. Only after dinner, when the 2 sat quietly on the sofa for a while, did Rao speak again. Mufa-sensei, are you feeling better now? Mufagirasa lowered her head, forcing herself to appear calm. I'm fine. That's good. It was obvious she was putting on an act, but Rao didn't expose her. Instead, he gently reassured her. Well, Ms. Garasu, now you can relax. Given your hands-on examination, there's no doubt about my physical condition, right? She was already doing badly, and that sentence made her want to crawl under a rock. She had really gone hands-on. And never done anything like that in her life. Don't ever bring this up again. Mufagirasa smacked the table in warning. Right now, all she wanted was to empty her mind. Ideally, she wouldn't have to see Rao at all. But unfortunately, he had no intention of leaving just yet. Alright, I won't mention it. He gave in easily, then added. So, Ms. Garasu, let's talk about why you were looking for me in the first place? Talking business was, at least, preferable to more awkward conversation. Mufagirasa steadied herself and looked over at him. But noticing her gaze drifting down to dot somewhere, she quickly turned away, fiddling with a strand of hair to hide her face. Ahem, it's about 2 of my students. She meant Fumino Furuashi and Rizuogata. I relayed your conditions to them. They want to give your approach a try. When might you be free? Ilya's always ready, so any afternoon after school works fine. He had no need to prepare anything elaborate. Mufagirasa nodded. Great, I'll let them know. With business addressed in a flash, the conversation ended. The living room fell silent once more. Mufagirasa was torn over whether she should politely ask him to leave. But she didn't have to say anything. Rao was already getting up. Then something else caught his eye, and he paused, fixing his stare on the corner of the sofa. Ms. Garasu, you have a cockroach in your house. Huh, a cockroach? Following Rao's gaze in confusion, she saw a brave little roach emerge from beneath the sofa right next to her foot. What was worse, she could see its antennae brushing against the hem of her clothing. Her pupil shrank in horror, a shiver running down her spine. Ah! With a loud scream, Mufagirasu's entire body seemed to unlock hidden potential. She sprang up in place, landing squarely on Rao. Even more dramatically, her legs coiled around his waist, terrified of falling near the insect. Eyes squeezed shut, she yelled. Go away, go away. Rao hadn't expected her to react to a cockroach as extremely as... well, reminiscent of Vignette. At least she didn't know any magic. Otherwise, the damage might match Vignette's destructive episodes. She clung to Rao, shaking him wildly. Concerned she'd topple off, Rao held her steady with both hands. Glancing at the cockroach scuttling around, he gave it a look. Flume. Fire burst forth, instantly burning the cockroach to ash. Rao then tried to calm the panicked Mufu. It's gone. I took care of the roach, so please relax. You got rid of it? She halted her flailing, peering behind her and indeed finding no trace of it. Thank goodness. She let out a heavy sigh of relief, her body unconsciously sinking slightly. Then froze. Becoming aware of her current position, she looked at Rao again. He gave a helpless shrug. Just an accident. Kaya. Her shriek rang out anew. Rhea left Mufagirasu's apartment. In the end, she didn't say much, only ordered him away in mortification. After all, in that situation, he wasn't at fault. She was the one who overreacted and ended up in an embarrassing posture. She couldn't reasonably blame him. Once he was gone, Mufagirasu lay on her bed, forearm draped across her burning face. The wave of shame left her utterly restless, not only because she'd lost her dignity multiple times but also because the backlash was entirely on herself. Not long ago, she had berated Rao, misunderstanding his intentions, nearly causing a catastrophe. But now she was the one whose mind had drifted toward questionable territory. Mufagirasu wouldn't run from it. She simply couldn't believe she'd almost lost control enough to ask him to stay. She slowly lifted her other hand. In the lamplight, it trembled with a faint dewy glow. How did it come to this? Just moments earlier, her mind had been flooded with thoughts of Rao, sneaking up on her and breaking open something deep inside her. Now, she was overwhelmed by self-consciousness, not knowing how to deal with these newfound feelings. Chapter 250, Protect Your Sister, Study Group 10 Master Clans. The Yotsuba Family. Shiba Tatsuya, you need to curb the hostility you brought back from the battlefield. A middle-aged man spoke to the mature-looking young man with short black hair before him. Yes. Shiba Tatsuya nodded. The man cast him an indifferent glance. Your next mission is to enroll in the National Magic University's first high school and protect your younger sister, Shiba Miyuki. My sister. Shiba Tatsuya's eyes flickered slightly. He seemed to recall having a younger sister he'd met once in childhood, but since enlisting in the army, he hadn't seen her again. Shiba Tatsuya's background was far from ordinary. He was the biological son of Shiba Tatsuru and Shiba Miya, the current head of the Yotsuba family's older sister, Shiba Maya. When he was born, he possessed a magic calculation zone capacity far beyond average. However, he could not use magic in the conventional sense and was judged to have no standard magical talent. Hence, at age 6, he became a test subject in the artificial magician experiment planned by his aunt, Yotsuba Maya, and carried out by his mother, Yotsuba Miya. Through that experiment, he gained an artificial magic calculation area and memory-like abilities. But as the cost of that mental reconstruction, the part of his mind that experienced strong emotions was essentially wiped clean. He could no longer feel excitement or react to things that might excite him. Because of this, he always remained calmly composed and could not truly comprehend other people's goodwill or affection toward him. Later, owing to his formidable capabilities, he was sent off to war as if he were a weapon. Only now had he returned. And they wanted him to protect a sister he barely remembered. Shiba Tatsuya felt nothing in particular, but he just needed to know the objective and complete the mission. Yes. Ding. Mufagirasu has invited you to join study group. Furuashi Fumino had just finished showering and was wearing a short-sleeved t-shirt and tight shorts while blow-drying her hair. The phone notification startled her. Ms. Girasu. Seeing the invite from Mufagirasu, she thought for a moment and accepted. Setting down the hairdryer, she sat on the sofa and, as she rubbed her smooth, white calves, she typed a message. Furuashi Fumino, Mufagirasu. Sensei, what's this chat group for? Ogatarizu, I'd like to know as well. Ogatarizu had also just been invited. She had returned from delivering udon, as her family ran a udon shop. Because her father wasn't good with finances, she handled the accounting. She also did all the deliveries whenever there were takeout orders. Rizu, no more deliveries today. You can rest, her burly father told her. Oh, Ogatarizu replied, heading upstairs, eyes fixed on her phone. She noticed that, besides herself, Furuashi Fumino, and Ms. Girasu, there was one more member in the group. Just then, Mufagirasu sent an explanation. Mufagirasu, Furuashi Fumino, Ogatarizu, let me introduce the other person in this study group. Rao. Even mentioning Rao's name made Mufagirasu feel jittery inside, but she had to follow through. Furuashi Fumino, Rao. Would that be the same Rao from our school? Furuashi Fumino's eyes widened. She even stopped rubbing her leg. Ogatarizu, eh? Ogatarizu was equally astonished. Rao, hello, I'm Rao. Rao, Furuashi-san and Ogata-san, I've heard a bit about you two from Miss Girasu. Furuashi Fumino, Rao-kun, can I have your autograph? They were supposed to be talking business, yet Furuashi's request came out of nowhere. Rao, an autograph? Furuashi Fumino, yes, yes. I'm a fan of yours. Mufagirasu? She'd gone to the trouble of creating a small group for tutoring, so how had it turned into a mini-fan meetup? Rao, however, grasped the meaning at once. Rao, you're my fan because of my recent academic progress, right? Furuashi Fumino, yes, exactly. Climbing the rankings so fast is amazing. Ogatarizu, indeed it's impressive. I could never do that, no matter how I tried. Rao, haha, about that autograph. Maybe we can handle it in person. But it won't be me who's teaching you. Furuashi Fumino, ugh, I know that. Furuashi Fumino, but I'm super curious. How did Rao-kun manage such rapid improvement? Ogatarizu, I want to know, too. With the conversation returning to academic matters, Mifagirasu breathed a sigh of relief. Rao, I don't have any special tricks. If I had to say, I guess I just became enlightened all at once. Furuashi Fumino, lightened. Ogatarizu, how does one become enlightened? Furuashi Fumino, or, put differently, how do you study on a day-to-day basis? Rao, there are many ways to become enlightened. But day-to-day, I just pay attention in class. After that, I enjoy spending time with my girlfriend. Furuashi Fumino, Ogatarizu, girlfriend? Although they weren't physically together, the two could smell the scent of juicy gossip from afar. As they say, curiosity is human nature, and even these geniuses weren't immune. Furuashi Fumino, Rao-kun already has a girlfriend? Who is she? I'm so curious. Ogatarizu, I'm also a bit curious. But Miss Girasu is still here. Mifagirasu. Oh, so they remembered she was here. Mifagirasu, I already know. I live just downstairs from Rao, so I've seen them. With that revelation, Ogatarizu, they're living together? Furuashi Fumino, cohabiting? To these innocent girls, that word was a bit too spicy. Rao, That's one reason I rarely study. If you have a girlfriend, why spend your time studying? Time is better spent researching deeper topics with your special someone, right? For example, right now, I'm here snuggled up with Futaba on one side and Mai on the other. So warm and soft. Furuashi Fumino, that's impressive. Ogatarizu. Mifagirasu, what are you people even talking about? This is a study group. Get back on track. She could no longer endure. Fearing the conversation would go further off the rails, she hastily stepped in to stop it. Chapter 251, Inurai and Yotsuya Maiko. The study group's conversation was brought back on topic by Mifagirasu. Furuashi Fumino, oh. So this is about the tutor you found for us, right? That person is your younger sister, Rao-kun. To be honest, when Miss Girasu first told me about it, I was pretty shocked. We're going to be taught by someone younger than I am? Even if Miss Girasu says she's a genius, I still find it hard to believe. Rao, yes. I should let you know about the scheduling. I'm free whenever, so if you want to meet my sister, tomorrow after school works. That is, if you're both available. Furuashi Fumino, of course, no problem. Ogatarizu, I'll have to finish delivering udon first. Rao, right, I'll post the address in the group. Just message me when you're on your way. Furuashi Fumino, okay. Ogatarizu. The next day. Everything was unusually calm. Seemingly just another uneventful day. Then, during the midday lunch break, ding. Inurai has joined the chat group, ding. Yotsuya Maiko has joined the chat group. The arrival of two new members rippled through the chat like a stone cast into still waters. Frieren, oh, two newcomers at once. Sakobujujima, welcome. Yamagawa, welcome to the new folks. Mikoto Misaka, so is there a standard welcome process? Stella, not really, but it's polite to say hi to new members. Rao, Inurai, Yotsuya Maiko. Welcome. As group admin, of course he greeted them. And he was indeed surprised by these two. Name, Yotsuya Maiko, level, 0, ability, spirit sight. From her name and the ability listed, he could guess she was probably from Miryuko-chan, that is, the girl who sees. Name, Inurai, level, 1, ability, no extra details to help him confirm, but that name strongly suggested Inurai from Guilty Crown. One world was a slice of life horror with spirits, the other a post-apocalyptic virus setting. Totally different vibes. A few minutes passed after Rao welcomed them. Sakurajima Mai, doesn't look like the newcomers are responding. Megamika too, maybe they can't believe it's real. Suai, that's the only explanation. Unless they can't see the messages? Mabel, Inurai, Yotsuya Maiko, can you see this? Yotsuya Maiko, I can see it. Kasuga Hijiri, they spoke. Akam, great, we can communicate. Yotsuya Maiko, ugh, I'm so confused. A chat group connecting different worlds. How can this be real? Sitting on the train, Yotsuya Maiko peered around anxiously. No one else sees this? Except for her, nobody seemed aware of the strange translucent interface. The chat group knowledge in her mind was baffling, and she wasn't sure she should trust any of it. But the fact that only she could see it was already beyond normal explanation. Maiko was about to check if anyone else in the group would say something when TCH. A sudden sharp pain stung Maiko's eyes, causing her to reflexively reach up. The pain came quickly and faded just as fast. Like dust had gotten in her eye. But when she raised her head again, she froze on the spot. She looked down the aisle of the train car, where a massive black mist, a twisted creature with extra limbs and razor-sharp fangs, was slinking around. What the? She nearly cried out in fright. That thing, noticing her, suddenly turned its head. At once, Maiko's blood ran cold. Ding dong. Right then, the train pulled into a station. Gathering her courage, Maiko stiffly stood and walked off the train. Standing on the platform, she looked back through the window and saw that bizarre, costumed-looking thing staring at her. Fortunately, the train soon began moving away. Phew. Finally able to breathe, Maiko thumped her chest, relieved beyond measure. Her heart was still pounding like crazy. That had to be some kind of cosplay, right? She tried reassuring herself. After all, there were plenty of weird cosplayers out there. Not wanting to dwell on it, Maiko turned to go home. But the moment she turned around, every drop of blood in her body seemed to reverse flow, and she nearly screamed. Because that same terrifying figure from before was now right in front of her, jaws gaping. She could hear a strange voice echoing in her ears. You see me? You see me? You see me? Her hands and feet went numb, but Maiko forced herself not to scream. She had a feeling that if it realized she could see it, something awful would happen. Despite her terror, she pretended not to notice and raised her phone as though mindlessly scrolling. Ding dong. Right then, a new message popped up. Hannah, did you get home yet? Seeing her friend Hannah's message felt like spotting a lifeline. Hannah's full name was Yurikawa Hannah, her good friend. Maiko hastily typed back, wanting to ask for help. Yatsuya Maiko, not yet, Hannah. I ran into a monster. Hannah, huh? A monster? Hannah, so that means you can see it? Huh? Maiko froze. That question sounded way too familiar. You can see it? That was exactly what the monster was saying right now. Then the next second, a chill ran down her spine. Her phone's screen flickered and began to scroll uncontrollably with repeated messages from Hannah. Hannah, you can see it. Hannah, you can see it. And so on, the same message over and over. A terrible premonition seized Maiko. Sure enough. You can see it. She heard Hannah's voice. But it came from that monster's body right in front of her. Maiko's face went pale. She realized she had stumbled into a trap. Chapter 252, Ghost You Really Can See Me. I'm going to devour you. The monster realized Yatsuya Maiko could see it, and its mouth stretched so wide it looked like it could swallow a person whole. A flood of terror overwhelmed Maiko's body. She wanted to run but was so scared her legs gave out, leaving her collapsed on the ground. You can see me. Now the monster was certain she could see it. It prepared to pounce right then and there. Help me. Her tearful scream echoed through the empty train station. Rao, Yatsuya Maiko, Inurai, you can decide for yourselves whether the chat group is real or not. You're free to initiate a trade if you want, and the trade content can be anything. In the chat group, Rao posted that message, and Yatsuya Maiko latched onto it like a drowning person grabbing a lifeline. A trade. Save me. Ding. Yatsuya Maiko has initiated a trade request, trade content, save her. Ding. Please choose your trade terms. Oh? Rao hadn't expected a newbie to initiate a trade so quickly. Save her. Could it be an evil spirit? From the content and what he knew about Yatsuya Maiko's world, he guessed she was dealing with something supernatural and urgent. He immediately accepted and made his selection. Maiko on her side confirmed it just as quickly. Ding. Trade begins, trade partner, Yatsuya Maiko, trade content, save her. Trade terms, spirit sight, right to use body once, duration, 24 hours since she agreed, naturally Rao would go. But this time, he decided to bring along 2 idlers for fun. He already had people in mind and sent them crossing invitations in his head. I'm really going to be eaten, aren't I? Faced with the monster's huge, white maw, Yatsuya Maiko shut her eyes in despair. She braced herself for the pain of being torn apart. But it never came. Rao-kun, what is that thing? It looks bizarre. It's an evil spirit, I guess that's this world's little twist. The voices of 2 women and a man made Maiko open her eyes. She saw the monster frozen in place, as well as a strikingly handsome guy and 2 beautiful, mature-looking women. Sayuri blinked. Evil spirit? You mean like a ghost? Close enough. Rao, gripping his chin, sized up the spirit he'd immobilized using time and casualty. In his eyes, this was a mass of twisted soul, resentment, and negative emotions all knotted together. I, Sayuri, Do either of you want to try dealing with it? He asked. He'd brought Sayuri and Sakurajima-I along, since they both had free time and he was in a why not sort of mood. Us? I and Sayuri exchanged glances. They didn't know each other, but felt a surprising sense of camaraderie right away, leaving each with a positive first impression of the other. I'll do it, I volunteered. She knew Rei-Ao's power gave her a special way to grow stronger. If it would help him, she didn't mind giving it a try. Yotsuya Maiko had no clue what was going on but was too afraid to speak. She then witnessed something incredible. Sakurajima-I's expression sharpened, her entire aura changing. Her ears morphed into the pointed tips of an elf's. ZT. Blue sparks crackled and swirled around her arms. Ha! She shouted softly, striking with her palm. Electricity arced forward in a flash, piercing easily through the spirit's head. Though none of them naturally had spirit sight, they could both see and harm the spirit thanks to Rei-Ao's intervention. Arg! The spirit screeched shrilly, its body thrashing before vanishing into wisps of smoke under Yotsuya Maiko's horrified gaze. It was weak to begin with. Ding. Trade complete, ding. Congratulations, you have gained the ability Spirit Sight. Ding. Detecting a possible merge with True Sight. Merging. You have obtained True Sight, their powers fused, though it made little difference to his True Sight. Still, better than nothing. After wiping out the spirit, I let out a small noise of surprise. Rei-Ao glanced over, name, Sakurajima-I, level 2. She had leveled up. I herself was now experiencing what Rei-Ao had described as leveling up. Indeed, she felt stronger. How does it feel? Rei-Ao asked with a grin. It's quite the strange sensation, Sakurajima-I answered, eyes bright with interest. Meanwhile, Sayuri stepped up to Yotsuya Maiko and offered a gentle hand. Here, child, let me help you up. Her soft smile banished any wariness Maiko might have had. Grasping Sayuri's hand, she rose shakily to her feet. You what was that thing? And who are you people? Maiko asked nervously, still trembling a bit. That was an evil spirit. A ghostly phenomenon, so to speak, Rei-Ao explained patiently. And I'm Rei-Ao, administrator of the chat group. We came because of your trade. These two here are my companions, Sayuri and I. Chatgroup.trade. Maiko recalled the strange interface before her eyes. She saw the others in the group discussing the trade information she had just used. Iragi Shinoa, what's going on? Newbie just arrived and already ran into trouble? Aizawa Shizu, looks urgent. Mikoto Misaka, wait a second, that trade specified giving away bodily usage rights? Frieren, don't worry. You'll get used to it. Yukino Shita Yukino, used to it. That's a scary thought. She herself had never imagined seeing such things happen, let alone get used to them. Frieren, so, what's happening with that newbie, Rei-Ao? You gonna do a live stream? Rei-Ao, no stream, sorry. It's already resolved. Stella, that took less than a minute? Maybe it wasn't that urgent, and Yotsuya Maiko just did a random trade? Kasuga Hijiri, I doubt someone would make a random trade about something so trivial. Sakobujujima, yes, because once the trade is complete, the conditions must be fulfilled. Chapter 253, Instructor Rei-Ao. She ran into a type of monster known as an evil spirit. Though it was very weak, it could still be deadly for an ordinary person with no means of defense. Megamika 2, an evil spirit. Is it the kind of thing I'm imagining? My Sakurajima, does the newcomer's world really have such creatures? Sounds a bit scary. Mabel, evil spirit. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Yukino Shita Yukino, an evil spirit can be understood, in our terms, as a malevolent entity formed from the grudge or hatred lingering after a person's death, possessing a special kind of power driven by obsessive resentment, potentially able to kill humans in bizarre ways. Yukino Shita Yukino, of course, in our world, evil spirits only exist in fictional stories. Mabel, that does sound scary. Sakobujujima, such stories are generally warnings for people to do good and avoid harming others, lest they be targeted for revenge by an evil spirit. Yamagawa yes, it's basically about having a sense of reverence for life. Iragi Shinoa, this type of monster, conjured from negative energy and unseen by most people, can be truly catastrophic for ordinary folks. Rei-Ao, it's pretty much like that here too, but also a little unusual. Taru, what's unusual about it? Taru, almost nobody can see these evil spirits, and they can't directly harm people who can't see them. Yukino Shita Yukino, so they can actually hurt someone who can see them. Rei-Ao, yes, about that. Rei-Ao, but first, the evil spirit needs to confirm that the human truly can see it before it attacks. Taru, that's such an odd limitation. Stella, in that case, Wouldn't pretending not to see it keep you from being attacked? Rao, yep, that's exactly how strange it is. Iragi Shinoa, wait a minute. If ordinary people can't see evil spirits, doesn't that mean Yotsuya Maiko, the newcomer, isn't an ordinary person? Akam, good point. Frieren, but if she wasn't ordinary, shouldn't she have been able to handle such a weak spirit on her own? Rao, she's different only in that she has the ability called spirit sight, which lets her see evil spirits. Rao, apart from being able to see them, it doesn't grant her anything else. Suai, huh? So it's basically useless, and it only puts her in danger? My Sakurajima, so, how is she doing now? Rao, she's just a bit shaken, she needs some time to recover. Ah, so that's it. Yotsuya Maiko began to piece it together. Everything Rao said lined up with her experience. So the reason she was saved was because of the chat group trade. Otherwise, she really would have been eaten by that evil spirit. Thank you for saving me. She hurriedly expressed her gratitude. It's too soon for thanks, Rao replied. Don't forget, this was a trade. Is it money you need? Just tell me how much. I'll pay whatever I can manage. Maiko took it very seriously. Money won't do any good. Check the chat group's trade details, which must be fulfilled. Rao gave her a hint. I've already acquired the spirit side ability. Oh, right. Let me look. Yotsuya Maiko blinked. There's also something called body usage rights, once. What is that about? She was clueless. Let's not worry about that for now, Rao said, not wanting to shock her too much with a blunt explanation. He simply pointed to a spot on her outfit that she herself hadn't realized. I think you should deal with your present situation first. Maiko was momentarily confused. Then a cold breeze blew by. All at once, she felt a chilly sensation under her skirt. She clamped her legs shut, her face turning bright red like a cooked apple. It seemed that she needed a change of underwear. Watching her look so embarrassed and on the verge of tears, Rao realized just how disarmingly cute that expression was. Something about it made him want to tease her a bit. Noting Maiko's obvious discomfort, Sayuri, who'd seen plenty of awkward moments taking care of young girls, spoke up. Rao-kun, we should find a hotel or something first. No problem. They found a hotel. With a bit of special influence, Rao secured a room, leaving Sayuri there to reassure Yotsuya Maiko and let her take a bath. Meanwhile, Rao and I went out to buy her some spare clothes. Having changed into fresh attire, Maiko stood before the three of them, her hands clutching the hem of her shirt, head bowed. All because Sayuri had explained what body usage rights meant as payment. After understanding, Maiko now realized the meaning behind Rao's earlier knowing smile. Could they really do that kind of thing? She no longer knew what to do or say. Rao exchanged a glance with Sayuri. Sayuri caught the cue and gently pulled Maiko to sit beside her. Because of her kindness and care earlier, Maiko trusted her deeply. Then Rao spoke up. Maiko. Is it okay if I call you that? She gave the faintest reply, like a mosquito's buzz. What do you think about this trade? Speak your mind. Again, Maiko shrank in embarrassment. But after a moment, she mustered her courage and lifted her gaze. I know the trade is one of the chat group's rules, and you also saved my life, so I'll accept all that I'm supposed to pay. It wasn't that she was giving up. More that she understood she had made her choice, and there was a cost. If it wasn't for Rao, she wouldn't be alive right now. Besides, she'd overheard some gossip that plenty of her peers had already had their first experiences, so maybe it would be okay? Even if it wasn't someone she loved, he had saved her life. And to top it off, Rao was handsome with a great presence. Her impression of him was actually quite good. So Yotsuya Maiko resolved to obey the trade's conditions, offering up her first time. Yet she twisted her fingers shyly, whispering. I really don't know anything about that sort of thing. I'm not sure I could do it right. No experience? Rao arched a mischievous grin. No worries. I'll have Sayuri and I demonstrate for you, and I'll teach you in person, too. Eh? Stunned, Maiko watched as he reached out with left and right hands to draw two very flustered women. Sayuri and I. Closer to him. Sayuri, you two will be Maiko's instructors from here on. Chapter 254, Tuko Yotsuya not dead? Yotsuya Maiko slowly regained consciousness, feeling dazed. Her entire body was limp. She recalled that not long ago she'd felt on the brink of death. Yet it had been a strangely pleasurable kind of near-death experience. Having never felt anything like it, now that she was waking up, she couldn't help savoring the lingering sensation. Die? Haha, I'm not that intense. I wouldn't wear you out to the point of death, Rao said with a teasing grin, pinching the little face resting on his chest. Eek. Yotsuya Maiko blushed, burying her face in embarrassment. Next to them, Ai and Sayuri both regarded her with gentle, affectionate gazes. After all, this girl was the excellent student they'd personally guided, one who had discovered how to enjoy herself on her very first time. Her reactions were so endearing that they couldn't help but recall whether their own Mai or Sayuri had been equally adorable back then. "Oh right, Maiko," Rei-ao spoke up. "Don't you have a friend with a huge appetite?" He remembered hearing that aside from Maiko herself, that friend of hers was also troubled by evil spirits in her daily life. Great appetite. Maiko immediately thought of her best friend. "You mean Hana? Her name is Yurikawa Hana." She was puzzled why Rei-ao would suddenly bring up Hana, and how he even knew about her. Rei-ao simply took out 2 black crystals and handed them over. "The reason your friend eats so much is that evil spirits lurking nearby sap her life energy, so she unconsciously compensates by eating extra to replenish it." "Huh? Hana can see evil spirits too?" Maiko had never noticed any odd behavior in Hana aside from her constant appetite. Hana was timid. If she could see ghosts, she would surely have shown some big emotional reaction. "She can't see them," Rei-ao replied. "She just has unusually abundant life force, which draws evil spirits in. But that same life force protects her. These 2 crystals can wipe out any evil spirits that come close. One is for you, and the other is for her." Maiko's eyes went wide. She was beyond thrilled. Previously, she'd been at a loss over what to do with her newly acquired spirit sight. Rei-ao had saved her this time, but what if she ran into more evil spirits in the future? Would she have to keep trading? That would mean, well, repeated weeding expeditions. Though it felt nice, it wasn't something one could do every day. Would that even be feasible? Now Rei-ao was providing these black crystals. She had no idea what they actually were, but she was inclined to trust him. If they really could eliminate evil spirits, that would be fantastic. But, "Are you sure it's okay for me to have something so powerful?" Maiko really wanted them, but worried she might not deserve it. Seeing her hesitation, Rei-ao slipped an arm around her waist and gently ruffled her hair. "You do deserve it," he said warmly. "We might have only had a trade between us, but I'm a possessive sort of person. To be blunt, I want to truly have you, Maiko. If you need me, I'll take responsibility for you." "Eh?" Her face reddened again. It felt like a strange confession, as if they'd already done the deed and he was only now offering a ticket. They had no emotional foundation, but Maiko did harbor a certain deep feeling toward the person who'd become her first. She'd always hoped that her first time would be with someone who'd stay by her side for life. However, given the special nature of their connection, and the presence of Auntie Sayuri and Auntie Ai, Maiko felt uneasy. Rei-ao noticed her conflicted emotions and didn't push. He wanted not just her body, but her heart as well. "No hurry. You can take your time thinking about it. Maybe we can spend more time together and see how things go," he said. Alright, Maiko mumbled, clinging softly. After bathing and freshening up, Rei-ao asked Ai and Sayuri to wander around this world for a bit, letting them bond and chat. Ai in particular had plenty of questions for Sayuri about how to handle a daughter. Especially since she'd yet to come clean with Mai, but would have to someday. "I hope to forge a good relationship with her." As for Rei-ao, he led Maiko by the hand, walking her home. "Ugh, Rei-ao, here we are. This is my house." Maiko was debating whether to let go, worried her mother might see them. But Rei-ao said, "Maiko, there's a spirit lingering in your home too?" She paled. "That's impossible." Her first reaction was denial. Then she recalled that she'd only today gained the ability to see ghosts. Meaning it could be true that there was a spirit at home. She suddenly had a thought, her expression turning pained. Could it be my dad and little brother? Rei-ao blinked, surprised that her brother had passed away as well. "On my mom's wedding day, my dad and little brother had a car accident. They died," Maiko said sadly. Rei-ao's lips twitched at the notion of dying on the way to a wedding. He decided he needed to ask more. "Maiko, explain the situation in detail. I'll see about dealing with their spirits." "Okay." Clutching Rei-ao's hand tightly, Maiko trusted him deeply, and slowly recounted her family history. Before long, Rei-ao realized the story was even more convoluted than he'd imagined. Turns out her family was a stepfamily in the making. Her father had been a single dad, raising a younger brother. Her mother was a single mom, raising Maiko alone. After some matchmaking, they decided to form a new family and soon arranged a wedding. But on the way there, the father and younger brother were killed in a car accident, both of them dying. Rei-ao found the story extremely melodramatic. And he had a feeling that Maiko's mother, Yotsuya Toyoko, might not be so simple either. "Rei-ao, if it really is them, how will you handle it?" "I'll send them on," Rei-ao said calmly, then rang the doorbell. "Maiko, you're back. And this is..." The door was opened by a woman with a layered side part hairstyle draped around her shoulders. "Tuko Yatsuya, Mrs. Yatsuya." She looked curiously at the young man standing with Maiko. "Hello, Mrs. Yatsuya. I'm Rei-ao, Maiko's friend," he greeted with a smile. "Yes, that's right. Rei-ao is my friend. He came over to our house to hang out today," Maiko said, nodding repeatedly. "I see." Mrs. Yatsuya looked a bit taken aback. She only remembered Maiko bringing home a female friend once. Yurikawa Hana. And this was the first time she'd seen her bring a boy. Although surprised for a moment, she soon smiled and welcomed him in. Yet Rei-ao noticed, behind that smile, a faint tiredness in her eyes. Chapter 255, Cleansing. "This is some fruit, Rei-ao-kun. Take as much as you like." Mrs. Yatsuya brought over a plate of fruit. Meanwhile, Rei-ao cast his gaze about the room's layout, pausing when he noticed a closed-off chamber. From what Yatsuya Maiko had explained, that was the room where her father's and younger brother's memorial tablets were kept. Maiko sensed what Rei-ao intended and knew what to do next. She went to her mother and coaxed her cutely, "Mom, could you go back to your room for a bit? There's something private Rei-ao and I need to talk about." "Huh?" Mrs. Yatsuya was puzzled by what private matter they might have. Until she recalled that both of them were a teenage boy and girl. Realization struck, maybe it was some kind of budding romance issue. Indeed, her daughter was at the age where such feelings start to develop, so it'd be awkward for her to linger. Nodding in understanding, she returned to her room. Alone in the living room, Rei-ao stood and headed toward the room with the memorial tablets. Maiko followed, nervous and uneasy, aware it likely held the spirits of her father and brother. When Rei-ao slid the door open. "Wah!" Maiko gasped in alarm. She saw two faint, human-shaped figures hovering in midair above the pair of memorial tablets set on a small table. One large, one small, her father and her younger brother. "Gotta go back. Gotta go back." They both muttered blankly, eyes empty. Rei-ao, "They don't seem monstrous, but something's off," Maiko said, confused about what was happening. Rei-ao explained. "They haven't turned into evil spirits yet. Right now, they're just restless souls in a chaotic, half-awake state. They have no clear consciousness, but they also haven't been tainted by negative energy. But if that goes on, they'll eventually become evil spirits." "What do we do, then?" Frightened, Maiko clung to Rei-ao's sleeve. "Physical deliverance." With a glance from Rei-ao, a crimson flame instantly engulfed the two incomplete souls, burning them away completely. He made sure there was no pain. Partly out of kindness, and partly because, while they weren't truly Maiko's father and brother anymore, they had almost become his future father-in-law and brother-in-law, in a sense. Is it over?" In the brief moment Maiko blinked, her dad and brother were gone, reduced to nothing by fire. "Haha, that's physical deliverance. Quick and direct. But you might need to explain things to your mom now." "Huh?" Following Rei-ao's line of sight, Maiko turned. Standing there was her mother, looking utterly stunned, her mouth trembling at the scene. The three of them sat in the living room, the atmosphere somber. Maiko stood, fidgeting apologetically. "Mom, I'm sorry I opened that room. I know you told me never to do that." Mrs. Yatsuya had warned her many times not to go in there. Now, not only had she opened it, she'd also been caught. Mrs. Yatsuya sat with a complex expression on her face, silent for a few moments. At last, she parted her lips. "Maiko, it's not your fault. Do you know why I always told you never to open that room?" Because Dad and my brother's memorial tablets are in there." Maiko had always assumed her mom simply wanted to keep them undisturbed, as a sign of respect for the dead. However. Sigh. Mrs. Yatsuya let out a deep sigh. "Maiko, in fact, my eyes can see things that ordinary people can't." "Huh?" Maiko lifted her head in shock, knowing all too well about seeing what shouldn't be seen. "Mom, you can see them too?" There was a glimmer in her mother's golden eyes, although her face was laced with worry. "Yes, I can see them. Though I never thought you would." "Ah, so that's it," said Rei-ao. "Mrs. Yatsuya, you look quite drained. I imagine all the oddities you've been seeing have been wearing you down?" Mrs. Yatsuya nodded resignedly. "Recently, I realized I could see these strange apparitions. Mom's awakened spirit sight too." "Spirit sight?" Mrs. Yatsuya repeated the term, not having heard it before. Rei-ao explained. "It's a special ability enabling you to see evil spirits and other unseen entities. You can think of it as a kind of superpower." "Oh, a superpower." She was astonished, but she was even more astonished by Rei-ao. "Rei-ao-kun, how do you know all this? And about my husband and child? What was that situation? I'd like you to tell me." Her eyes pleaded for answers. Even though she and her late husband had the title of husband and wife, albeit for a short time, she was a traditional woman who yearned to learn the truth of what happened. "This world isn't as simple as it looks," Raoul said. He didn't mind explaining, especially to such a lovely, cultured, and intriguing lady. It took him some time, but he filled her in on the true nature of things. "So that's how it is." Mrs. Yotsuya stared blankly. Souls, evil spirits. Who knew the world wasn't quite so normal, that most people simply lacked the eyes to see such things. Yet gaining these special eyes hardly pleased her. "It's safest when you can't see them," she murmured heavily. "Maybe having these eyes is really just a curse?" Raoul shrugged. "In other worlds, maybe not. But here, it could be considered one. I personally don't mind, but for Maiko." Mrs. Yotsuya hugged her daughter, face clouded with sadness. She knew that with such eyes, Maiko might spend her life in constant terror. "Mom, don't worry. Raoul gave me a charm that can wipe out evil spirits," Maiko exclaimed, taking out the black crystal to show her mother. "Huh? There's really such a charm?" Mrs. Yotsuya examined it curiously. Given everything Raoul seemed to know, plus how he had delivered her husband's restless spirit, she felt inclined to trust him. "In that case, Mrs. Yotsuya," said Raoul, "since you're Maiko's mother, you should have one too." He casually conjured another magic-infused crystal and handed it to her. Then, spreading his 5 fingers, he laid a barrier around the house. "I've set a ward on your home now, so no evil spirits can approach in the future." Chapter 256, Lovely Mother and Daughter, I and Sayuri Farming. "Is this?" Mrs. Yotsuya stared in a daze at the crystal in her hand. "Is it really okay to give me something so valuable?" She felt she was entirely benefiting thanks to Maiko. Raoul smiled. "Of course. You're Maiko's mother, and my relationship with Maiko is not very good." He winked at Maiko as he said that, causing her face to flush bright red. Well, of course their relationship was close. They had already engaged in extremely intimate contact. "Naturally, I also don't want a beautiful lady like Mrs. Yotsuya to be tormented by evil spirits, weakening your vitality and spirit." Humphrey. She was taken by surprise at the sudden compliment and felt a bit shy. Then again, what woman dislikes being called beautiful? Mrs. Yotsuya was no exception. A tranquil smile inadvertently surfaced on her lips. "Raoul-kun, you have quite a sweet tongue. No wonder you could become Maiko's boyfriend, right?" "Be boyfriend?" Maiko's eyes widened, and she hurriedly denied it. "Mom, we're not in that kind of relationship." "Oh? Not in that sort of relationship?" A look of surprise surfaced on Mrs. Yotsuya's face. "Raoul-kun has helped both you and me so much, I assumed." She was serious. She'd even grown to approve of Raoul. Her impression of him was extremely favorable, and she genuinely hoped to see him and Maiko progress further. If Maiko's partner were Raoul, she'd be quite open-minded about it. Seeing Maiko's shy expression, Raoul explained. "We're indeed not dating." "Such a shame." Mom, what are you saying?" Maiko never would have guessed her mother would react as if it were a pity. Like she regretted he couldn't become her son-in-law. "I feel it's a pity too," Raoul said solemnly. "So I'll do my best to pursue Maiko and hopefully make her mine, becoming one family in the future." "Eh?" Such bold words left Maiko's face steaming red. She didn't dare look at either of them. She spun on her heel and rushed to her room. Slam. The door shut. Raoul and Mrs. Yotsuya met each other's gazes and shared a bright smile. "Raoul-kun, please don't tease Maiko like that. She's easily embarrassed." "Haha, it's just that Maiko's timid or frightened expressions are too cute. I can't help wanting to fluster her." "I agree." Mrs. Yotsuya nodded in sympathy. "Well, we've resolved the situation here, so I should get going." "You're leaving already? Why not stay for dinner?" Hearing that he was about to leave, Mrs. Yotsuya sincerely tried to persuade him to stay. She hadn't had a relaxed conversation with anyone else in a long time. Ever since the accident on her wedding day that took her new husband and his child's lives, rumors had circulated, she rarely socialized. She also never expected she could chat so easily with a boy much younger than herself, yet share such a natural rapport. Raoul didn't mind building a closer relationship with this wonderful lady, but he remembered his plan for that evening, meeting Furuashi Fumino and Ogata Rizzo. So he politely declined. Still, he added, "Maybe next time. I hope I'll see you in high spirits and looking even more lovely, Mrs. Yotsuya. I'm really looking forward to it." Suddenly hearing those words and seeing his charming smile made Mrs. Yotsuya's heartbeat speed up. By the time she came back to her senses, Raoul had vanished. She stood gazing at the spot where he had disappeared, unable to snap out of it for a long while. After a few moments of silence, Mrs. Yotsuya went into the bathroom, facing the mirror at the sink. Indeed, she saw that her appearance looked somewhat drained and weary. Placing a hand on her cheek, she murmured softly, "I really do need to get some proper rest." Shortly after. Click. Having heard no sound from the living room, Maiko, who had been waiting by the door, opened it a crack and peeked out. Huh? No one was there. Confused, she walked out of her room and saw her mom busy in the kitchen. She asked, "Mom, where's Raoul?" "He already left, dear." "El left?" Maiko exclaimed, suddenly feeling a pang of loss. Noticing her reaction, Mrs. Yotsuya smiled and teased. "Maiko, next time you see your Raoul, try being more open. You've got to hold on to your future, after all." Ugh. Her whole body tensed at those words. She knew her mom didn't mean anything special by it, but she couldn't help imagining a bunch of scenarios. Instantly, Maiko was all flustered again, like a kettle letting off steam. Huh? Mrs. Yotsuya had no idea what images were bouncing around her daughter's mind. She just assumed Maiko wasn't comfortable expressing her feelings about romance yet. Sigh. She let out a small sigh, wishing her daughter could be bolder in showing her emotions. Meanwhile, there was a trace of envy in her heart. If she were in Maiko's position, she'd definitely take the initiative to get close to such a wonderful young man as Rao. Sadly, she wasn't Maiko, she was an older woman now. "You two look like you had quite a bit of fun." Rao suddenly reappeared in front of Tori and I. Rather than doing normal things like shopping or strolling around, they had came to an abandoned, half-finished construction site. How bold. Obviously, it wasn't for the scenery or photos. They'd come here to exterminate evil spirits. As expected, many spirits lurked in the decaying shell of the place. Plus, their bodies, imbued with Rao's power, seemed to attract evil spirits' attention the same way intense life energy did, drawing them in. Relying on Rao's protection, they fearlessly wiped out the evil spirits infesting the site. Their motivation was straightforward: they both wanted to work together to grow stronger, to be of use to Rao. Even being able to endure more impact was important. For they knew there was a huge gap between their physical endurance and Rao's. They might be satisfied, but he was not. They wanted to let him enjoy things more fully. Rao certainly understood their intentions. Their efforts did not go unnoticed. Name, Sakurajima I, Level 5, Name, Sawamura Kori, Level 5. You've done well, he praised them without reserve. I and Kori exchanged a smile. That's just what we should do. Then let's head back. Chapter 257, Talk about Love and Adolescence Syndrome in the World Group Chat. Hi Ritsuka Shizuka, you skipped class again. You know how hard it is for me to cover for you? She knew Rao had gone off to do a trade, and everyone else either ignored it or was used to it by now. But as his homeroom teacher, she couldn't help complaining. It was tough every time she had to arrange his absences. Rao, haha, how about I make it up to you with a date next time, is that good enough? Hi Ritsuka Shizuka, who needs you to make it up, you idiot? Kasumajoka Utaha, can't you two talk about this by phone? Why do it in a group chat and shove your lovey-dovey stuff in our faces? Eri, agreed. Kobashi, I concur. Shin, Mom, you've got to work hard so that one day you can flood the chat with that kind of sweet talk, without worrying about what anyone thinks. Kobashi, stop talking nonsense. Kawasaki Saki, Hiratsuka Shizuka. Is she that homeroom teacher for class 3? Kasumajoka Utaha, yep, that's her. I can guess what you're about to ask. Let's just say you'll get used to it. Never mind homeroom teachers. Utaha had witnessed his editors, other people's wives, all sorts of folks, and none had one against him. Whenever she opened the group, she couldn't help feeling she was behind the times. Kawasaki Saki. Uegahama Ue. Rao-kun helped another girl from a different world? Yukino Shita Yukino, maybe it's more accurate to say they made a trade. Machida Sanogo, well, help is still help, even if there's a fee. Rao, you should have seen the specifics about Maiko in the main group, right? Uegahama Ue. Yes. It was about evil spirits. In truth, she wanted to ask if Rao had done that with Maiko, but she was too embarrassed to say it out loud. Rao, by the way, Uegahama Ue, how's your condition now? Uegahama Ue, it seems fine. Everything's back to normal after that day. Mira Yumiko? What are you guys talking about? Something was wrong with Yui's health. Seeing that, Yumiko was puzzled. She had no idea Yui had been unwell in any way. They hung out practically every day, and aside from that one time when Yui's memory seemed off, she'd been perfectly normal. Rao, it's nothing big. Yui had a kind of adolescence syndrome. Yukino Shita Yukino, adolescence. Miro Yumiko, syndrome. Kobashi, from the name alone, I can tell it's none of my business. Sayuri, same here. Hiratsuka Shizuka, sigh, teenagers can be exhausting. Miro Yumiko, is it a disease? Rei-ao, not exactly. Think of it as a paranormal phenomenon caused by the intense worries or anxieties of teenagers. Yukino Shita Yukino, a paranormal phenomenon. So not a normal illness. Rei-ao, correct. Rei-ao, so far, among those I've encountered with adolescence syndrome, there are 3 in this group, Mai, Yua, and Futaba Ryo. Rei-ao, Mai's was vanishing presence, Yua swapped bodies with her mom, and Futaba Ryo had split personalities. Miro Yumiko? Miro Yumiko, Yua, you and your mom swapped bodies? Does that mean back then? She recalled the day Yua had seemed out of it. Yuagahama Yua, ugh, that day my mom took my place at school. Miro Yumiko. No wonder you acted so strangely. Kasumadoka Utaha. I wanted to ask, can anyone get adolescence syndrome? Rei-ao, only teens with especially deep worries are likely to get it. Kobashi, as expected, doesn't concern me. Hiratsuka Shizuka, ugh, adolescent boys and girls really do encounter all sorts of issues. Katumegami, Rei-ao-kun, that Futaba Ryo's split personality. Does it mean an actual multiple personality disorder? Rei-ao, more or less, but with a twist. Rei-ao, her other personality manifested physically as a real person. Futaba Ryo, hello everyone, I'm Futaba. The other personality of Ryo. Futaba Ryo. And I'm Ryo. Nice to meet you. Katsuhiromi, they're the same person, right? Rei-ao, it's complicated. They're 2 separate individuals, yet share the same identity, and their abilities are also synchronized. Machida Sanoko, truly, the world is vast and full of wonders. But the real Futaba Ryo felt uneasy. It wasn't just about having synchronous abilities. Both personalities even shared certain strange physical sensations sometimes. Say Yuri, if it's an adolescent problem, shouldn't Eriri also? Shut up, Mom, I don't have any worries. Came Eriri's voice as she bolted from her room, yelling toward the living room where Sayuri was. Haha. Sayuri let out a soft laugh, narrowing her eyes gently. Then why have you been avoiding me for the past 2 days, Eriri? Eriri turned away with a huff. Not because of anything. Just you and him. Seriously. You're an old lady already, how could you still? She blurted out her sour complaint, then realized she might have gone too far and clamped her mouth shut. Glancing over, she saw Sayuri didn't look angry. Well, yes, I am an old lady, Sayuri said calmly, still smiling. But. She beckoned Eriri closer. Come, Eriri, how about we have a little heart-to-heart? She wanted to refuse, but recalling the harshness of her words, she reluctantly shuffled over to sit down. Yet kept some distance between them. Sayuri stood up, moved beside her, and pulled her close. Surprised by the sudden intimacy, Eriri blushed and tried to push her away. Mom, what are you doing? I'm not a little kid. Hee, in a mother's eyes, Eriri will always be her little girl. Sayuri refused to let go. Eriri, do you know why your mom's so happy lately? No idea. Eriri shook her head. Sayuri's lips curved mischievously, leaning toward her daughter's ear. Because Rei-ao-kun recently took me to another world to have some fun with. Eriri's heart lurched as if something heavy had dropped on it. Huh? Her face contorted with envy and confusion. For some reason, Sayuri felt a surge of joy at seeing that expression. Chapter 258, Ayase and Tsugumi. Rei-ao was leisurely chatting in the group chat, but unfortunately, Inurai, the new member, hadn't said a word from start to finish. Some of the group members had mentioned her a few times, yet there was still no response at all. Even Rei-ao began to wonder if she'd actually seen the group chat. Logically, all the chat info should have been transmitted to her mind immediately. Still, he didn't think too much of it, he decided to just let things follow their natural course. Meanwhile, in another world. On top of a tall building, the wind roared harshly, not the least bit gentle. But there on the edge, a pink-haired girl sat calmly, letting the wind blow through her hair as she quietly gazed forward. She wasn't watching the sunset's afterglow. Rather, she was curiously reading every message in the group chat. Her name was Inurai. A girl with a soft pink hairstyle, deep crimson eyes, a divinely gifted singing voice, and astonishing beauty. Just as Rei-ao had guessed. She'd already been aware of the group chat's existence but hadn't said anything because she didn't know if it was real or if it might be an enemy set on targeting her organization. Inurai's identity was unusual. On one hand, she was an internet idol singer under Egoist, on the other, she was a member of the resistance group called Funeral Parlor. Funeral Parlor's enemy was GHQ. The relationship between these two factions traces back to an incident known as Lost Christmas in December 2029. In the area of Roppongi Fort, a new infectious disease called the Apocalypse virus broke out. It was terrifying, with a bizarre onset mode, and had extremely high infectivity and lethality rates. The virus was categorized into at least 4 infection levels. Under level 4 infection, the patient's body would be largely covered by purplish crystal-like formations, impossible to forcibly remove. At level 1, the patient might test negative or have just a tiny area of crystallization. As the virus spread, the patient would gradually lose their mind, eventually slipping into unconsciousness at level 4. After dying, the patient's body would fully crystallize, and under physical impact, the crystals would break and vanish. The virus itself keeps crystallizing within the body, eventually rupturing through the skin. This dreadful virus caused massive turmoil in the Roppongi Fort area. Local authorities were completely out of their depth, so a multinational security force was brought in. The Japan government relinquished its authority, and GHQ began a provisional rule over the country. Though local organizations and municipal bodies still operated, national administration and policy decisions came under GHQ's control. Meanwhile, funeral parlor emerged in the Roppongi region. After the Lost Christmas incident, Roppongi essentially became a zone outside any country's jurisdiction. Its residents weren't allowed to leave nor receive vaccinations. Funeral Parlor was born as an underground resistance group, hidden under Roppongi Fort, fighting GHQ in hopes of freeing Japan. They fought alone, risking their lives under the motto, "Offer a requiem for the ones cast aside." Inurai was one of them. GHQ possessed advanced technology, so Inurai acted prudently by not responding to the greetings in the group chat, a choice befitting her situation. "Inurai, Gay is looking for you. Says there's an important mission for you." Suddenly a female voice came from behind. "Why do you always come to places like this? If your identity's exposed, it'll be dangerous." That was a second female voice. Inurai turned around to see a black-haired girl wearing cat ear accessories pushing a wheelchair, and seated in the wheelchair was an orange-haired young woman. "Sugmi, Ayas." Inurai called out their names. Both were funeral parlor members. Shinamiya Ayas, one of funeral parlor's main combatants, lively and competitive, a wheelchair user, and pilot of a humanoid mecha Endlave. Sugmi, Ayas's younger sister, in charge of intel operations for funeral parlor, an outstanding controller. During combat, she wore tight-fitting clothes with electrode sensors all over, enabling her dance-like actions to provide highly efficient support to the front-line fighters. She also often worked as a hacker, breaching enemy systems, vital to their missions. As for Gay, that referred to Gate Satsugami, the young leader of the funeral parlor, who was also Inurai's savior. Inurai stepped away from the building's edge and abruptly asked, "Sugmi, Ayas, do you think it's possible there are other worlds beyond ours?" It was an oddly scientific yet sci-fi, almost philosophical question. The two were momentarily at a loss. Exchanging glances, Sugmi spoke first, sounding slightly annoyed. "Who knows? Anyway, whatever's out there has nothing to do with us." Ayas casually added, "Maybe. But even if there is some better world, it won't change our reality. Alright, let's head back." Inurai followed them back to funeral parlor's base, her gaze lingering on the group chat, a question stirring in her heart. Can't we really change our circumstances? Ding dong. The doorbell rang at Rao's house. "You are." The one who opened the door was Toru, who looked uncertainly at the three people standing there. Of the three, she recognized Mifagirasu. But not the two nervous-looking girls, Furuashi Fumino and Ogata Rizu. "They're my students. We arranged with Rao about 2.5 hours ago to meet," Mifagirasu explained. Despite the anxiousness stemming from her last incident, something that clashed with her professional standards, she had no choice. This was the first time her students had come, and she had to be responsible for them, offering them a sense of security. Even if it meant avoiding seeing Rao or even speaking to him if possible. Just then, Rao walked over. "Toru, they're here by appointment with me." "Oh, alright." Toru opened the door. "Please come in." Chapter 259, The Tutoring Begins. "Here you go." After leading them into the house, Toru served tea to the three visitors. "Thank you." Furuashi Fumino looked around the room with curiosity. Spacious, tidy, and spotless. Then her gaze fell on Toru. "Could this be Sakura Jimamai, the student teacher Mifa mentioned?" "Welcome, everyone," Rao greeted, openly expressing his hospitality. "Pleased to meet you." "Thank you for having us." Furuashi Fumino and Ogata Rizu bowed politely. They covertly sized up Rao. It was their first time meeting him, and their impression was excellent. Mainly because he was handsome, giving off a very pleasant vibe. In this day and age, people really do care about looks. "And Ms. Mifu, you don't mind supervising this, do you?" Rao asked. It wasn't really about her time or trouble, it was his gaze that made her skin crawl. Worse still, She couldn't control her eyes constantly flicking toward a certain part of Rao's body. Ever since that day, she couldn't erase that mental image. Close her eyes, and it popped right back. A total lack of shame on her part, she admonished herself. As a teacher, she considered it a massive failure. Now even facing her own students, she felt guilty and furtive, but with Furuashi Fumino and Ogata Rizu present, she had no choice but to try to remain calm. Cough. It's no trouble. Let's get down to business then. Shall we begin? Where's Ilya? Huh, here she comes, Rao said, turning with them to see a petite Ilya walking over. She's so cute. Furuashi Fumino exclaimed, eyes sparkling. Ogata Rizu nodded inwardly. Ilya was indeed a very cute girl. Hello, I'm Ilya. I'll be serving as your tutor from here on. Ilya showed no shyness and immediately assumed a teacher-like stance. Furuashi Fumino and Ogata Rizu perked up at once. Their time under Ilya's instruction was about to begin. At first, they were half doubtful. They'd already met all sorts of teachers and tried countless methods, none of which had worked. Although they outwardly clung to the hope of improvement, in truth their spirits had been worn down by repeated failures. Possibly, the one who truly had no expectations for them wasn't Mifagirasa but themselves. However, when Ilya began her tailored lessons, specifically addressing their weak points and guiding them with a custom approach, something changed. Ilya first focused on Furuashi Fumino's science subjects. Fumino was amazed that the math problems, which would normally make her head spin and put her to sleep whenever she heard or saw them, were suddenly making sense. She found herself genuinely absorbing Ilya's explanations. Meanwhile, Ogata Rizu, who typically grasped math concepts at a single glance, to the point that she never really listened to the teacher in class, now found herself unintentionally paying attention to Ilya's method. And that intrigued her, she was actually listening. How unusual. This, of course, was largely due to Ilya's magic-assisted instruction. Seeing Furuashi and Ogata both immersed in their studies, Mifagirasu's eyes shone with sudden hope. Could this work? She wondered, a flicker of anticipation lighting up within her. The living room lapsed into a studious hush. Even Toru, passing by, kept her voice down, not wanting to disturb them. Eventually, Futaba Ryo emerged from her bedroom and made her way to the bathroom. Even though she tiptoed as quietly as possible, Mifagirasa noticed. Huh? Teacher Mifu, spotting Futaba Ryo, felt a sense of déjà vu. That apostrophe S. Futaba Ryo? She called out the name. Wasn't that her student? Futaba froze momentarily and replied coolly. I'm Futaba, then slipped into the bathroom to take a bath. Ah. Mifagirasa was momentarily stunned. She couldn't have mistaken someone else for Futaba Ryo. Apart from lacking glasses, that was absolutely the same face. Rao, why is Futaba Ryo here at your house? She asked suspiciously. Oh. That was definitely Futaba Ryo, said Furuashi Fumino and Ogata Rizu, now paying attention as well. I saw her too, Ogata Rizu added. She recalled Futaba Ryo for her strength in science. Rao was already prepared for this scenario. He came up with a temporary identity for Futaba. That's Futaba. She's Ryo's younger sister. Her younger sister? Mifagirasa was astonished. Futaba Ryo had a twin sibling identical to her? Futaba Ryo has a twin sister? Furuashi Fumino asked, equally perplexed. Explanation might have gotten complicated, so Rao simply picked up his phone and dialed Ryo's number, opting for a video call. Within a few seconds, it connected. What is it? Ryo, wearing glasses, looked puzzled on screen. She wondered why Rao was calling rather than messaging via the group chat. Rao, well, Ms. Mifu is at my place, and she's skeptical about your sister Futaba. Can you clarify for her? As he spoke, he offered the phone to Mifagirasa. Taking the phone, Mifagirasa indeed saw Futaba Ryo on video. Judging by the setting behind her, it obviously wasn't the bathroom. Meanwhile, from down the hall in Rao's place, the sound of running water indicated that the other Futaba was bathing right now. Ryo quickly grasped the situation. Willing to cooperate, she said. Teacher Mifu, whoever you saw at Rao's place must be my sister, Futaba. Please don't misunderstand. Oh. Right. Hearing Ryo say so herself blocked any further doubts Mifu might have had. Yeah. That's really Futaba Ryo. She's exactly the same, aside from the glasses, Furuashi and Ogata murmured, leaning over for a look. Ryo, seeing them, felt a bit curious. What are you two doing at Rao's house? We're here for tutoring, hee hee. Furuashi scratched the back of her head sheepishly. Ryo didn't doubt the tutoring claim, but she strongly suspected that Rao had deeper motives. Considering what he might already have done with Futaba, Ryo had every reason to suspect he was hunting. Yet she couldn't say anything. She could only encourage them. Good luck. Bye.